Was this because of the story I was just telling you?
Yes.
Or me getting mugged? That's so funny.
No, it's not supposed to be funny.
But it kind of was.
Hold on. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Kiss Capades podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Last minute podcast, and she pulled through. So I have, so much appreciation and respect for that. You have no idea. So introduce yourself. Just tell the people your name and what you do before, we start this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Charlotte Simons. I'm from the Netherlands, 27 years old, and I'm a freelance journalist. I've been in Nairobi since September last year, and I'll be leaving the beginning of next week because I'm going to Kampala.
Leaving us.
Yeah, I might come back though. Who knows? I'm always coming back to Nairobi at some point. So.
We'll get to that. But from your post, I reached out, of course, definitely, because she posted these vegan pancakes, which I've never seen anybody having, and I was just curious, who is this person who's having just
who is vegan in Kenya?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So are you? Is that for health reasons or just something that you've been accustomed to?
No, I used to be a
you love
big
animals?
Meat eater. I love that. That's mainly the reason I stopped eating meat. So I was vegetarian for about a year first, a year and a half, and then one of my friends actually turned into a very avid animal rights activist out of nowhere. And she kind of converted me.
She forced you. She tricked you.
I mean, no, it was my decision. And I was becoming as extreme as her for a while. So I became an activist as well. I would
Really?
Yeah, I would chain myself to fences. I would jump into dolphin area, do all kinds of weird stuff.
Protests and everything?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but then, I got arrested a couple times, but for some reason, I never got a criminal record. And then my sister moved to the US.
Yeah.
And I had to stop doing all of that because when you're a Dutch citizen and you have a criminal record, you cannot get a visa for the US. So if I wanted to go visit her, I had to
actually tone that
behave.
down. Yeah.
So that's why I stopped. But I was still vegan for up until last year somewhere. And then
You got some Kenyan influence in you, you're always eating meat everywhere.
Yes. Well, I don't eat meat anymore. I haven't eaten meat since 2011, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but then I was traveling through Eastern Africa, and then I was eating cheese somewhere, and I'm like, this stuff is too good. I'll just stick to being vegetarian for now.
This stuff is too good.
Yeah. But I mean, veganism all the way. It's better for your health. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you're eating, I think, meat, for me, I try and stick to white meat most of the time.
That's better.
Yeah, and then with age, as you age, you just want to take care of yourself as well. If you hear this is not good for your body,
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks for
I
supporting.
eat like shit.
Thanks for supporting the direction where I was going to try and maneuver in a very different way. Yeah, and I also didn't realize you're that tall because when I was reaching out in your pictures, pictures have a lot of stuff that's.
Didn't you see me standing next to my friends and you were like,
just thought
she's towering over everybody?
I just thought your friends are short, and you can always choose to have short friends so that you can boss them around. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I do that too. No, but yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, like I just said.
Is everyone super tall there? Or
the people there are the tallest people in the world on average.
So this is normal height probably?
No, it's not normal. I'm still pretty tall for a Dutch person. I was 6 feet by the time I was 12, so that's not very normal.
Jeez, 12, you're 6 feet, 12 years old.
Yeah, and I was also very skinny, so that just looked weird.
Hey, listen, it's all for a reason, at least. And like I was saying, just behind the camera, before we started rolling, I hope at least you participated in some sports that were beneficial to your school and friends.
Nah.
Yeah, that's why we go with a waste of height again. See, if it was for me, by now I'd have been playing for the NBA, No.
I could have been a model, but I was too fat, so that wasn't gonna happen.
This is good, thanks. Wait, what? You could have been a what?
Well, I was maybe I could have been a model, but I was too fat anyway.
Says who?
I mean, like I don't consider myself to be fat, but I'm too fat to be a model.
Oh, but in Europe, the whole thing with models, like you have to be super, super skinny. But there's
preferably. Yeah.
But there's a new wave right now for
That's
like
true.
you know a little bit of like plus, and it's not like you're big. You're just like I don't know. I don't know the right words to describe. Because you know I don't want to offend anyone. Thick. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, curvy. Yeah. Like you know, Fashion Nova Curve. They have a segment for that.
They do.
Yeah. Do you buy their clothes?
I should get sponsored by them.
Oh, you'd do well. You'll do well in that category. Now, speaking of which, the podcast is all about the 4 pillars of life: health, wealth, love, and happiness.
Yeah.
And even just from, okay, first of all, you said you don't pay attention to what you're eating.
No, look at me. You're having a salad. I'm having my pancakes.
Pancakes. There we go. So health, wealth, love, and happiness. And different people just have different journeys and different experiences to what they shape them to, who they actually are, their beliefs, and just how they maneuver in life. So what persuaded you to get into, for which company do you work for, first of all?
Well, I'm freelancing right now, so I work for all kinds of companies.
Yeah.
But I used to be a junior editor for VICE back home. Yeah.
And you know what? I love VICE. So that when I saw the VICE thing on your Instagram, I was like, yo, listen, we have to sit down. The last resort would have been for me to come with my setup to where you are. But I've been like, you know what? Let me just try and tell her to actually come to the location so that, you know, she's not getting any special treatment. Even though it's her last week in Kenya.
Don't get special treatment.
Yeah. I was just like, you know, everybody else, we need to be equal here. But so, just speaking of freelancing for VICE and all these other companies, do you do writing? Do you do documentary? What kind of journalism do you do? Writing?
Yeah, writing. Writing articles. But I maybe one day will expand to doing television or, you know, like working behind the scenes of producing a documentary. I don't know.
So you've never done any of those?
Nope.
That's crazy.
I've done research for documentaries that were...
So not even voiceover or...
No. Maybe
why?
People tell me you have a good voice for doing voiceovers.
I'm listening to your voice right now. And even just how you're talking about the kind of conversation that we're about to have and everything, just from the intro to now, just shows like you have a little bit of character that, you know, you can tap into.
Yeah, maybe. But I think, like, right now I'm used to hearing my voice on tape because I always tape my interviews and I listen back to them, so that's fine. But seeing my own dumb face on camera, like, I hate it.
What do you mean?
Can't deal
what
with
are you
it.
saying?
I don't like this at all.
What? And you have like even nice pictures on your Instagram and everything. I mean, come on, tap into that.
Filters.
No, I'm seeing you in real life. Actually, really good looking, tall, and everything. Have a lot going on. Let's just keep it at that for now and just go back to professionalism on the podcast. And yeah, I also saw like, you know, you can actually speak Swahili as well.
Kidogo.
Najua
Kiswahili kidogo. Lakini nimesahau mengi.
Okay, now when you start now actually making a sentence, now you fuck everything up.
No. Don't continue.
Because now I'm like, oh, okay,
continue.
now she actually can't speak Swahili.
Usually I can pick up topics that people are talking about, but usually it's too fast for me to understand the entire conversation.
Yeah.
But I usually know when people are talking about me because, like, especially guys, they will call me Twiga. Like talking about my height, like why is this girl so tall? Why is her hair so dark for a Mzungu? So usually I can pick up on those things, but
because you hear it repeatedly, right?
Yes, everywhere.
So how is it like? Because I want to know how you got into the writing thing and everything, and just the journalism part. How is it like just growing up in the Netherlands? In just the education system and pursuing like what you're doing right now, because what's happening in Kenya, you find like a lot of people graduating from one kind of like education specification,
Yeah.
and then they end up like practicing something completely different. Is this like what you studied?
It actually is. So I finished secondary school, and then I didn't really know what I was gonna do. So I just signed up for what is it called in English? Like general cultural sciences at the university in Amsterdam. And I was doing that for a year, and I didn't really put much effort into it because I just didn't care that much.
Wow.
Like I cared about all the topics they were talking about, but they were all very focused and centered on Europe and the Western world. And by that time I was already traveling through Africa, and I was
Interested in
far
other
more
things.
interested in other continents than I was in Europe. And then I finished that first year, and then one of my friends told me that I could also go study African languages and cultures. There's one university in Holland where you can do that. So I quit immediately, and then I transferred to another university, and then I started doing Africa studies. And then I
That's a
minored.
thing.
It is a thing, yeah.
What?
Yeah. And then
So what do you study in African cultures?
I was mostly focusing, usually you pick out a region that you're most interested in and you focus on that region. So I was always mainly focused on Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Mainly culture, linguistics, history. It's very broad. So because Africa, of course, is humongous, so it's impossible to become an expert in the entirety of Africa. It's impossible.
For me, I'm just thinking like it's so intriguing that there's actually a country somewhere where they have a specific class that they can actually teach people about Kenya.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think they have that in most Western countries, though. You can usually study Africa studies if you want to, but there's not many people doing it.
And then what do you do after you study like those African countries? Like how do you make like your paycheck now?
Many people end up working for NGOs, or they start working for European companies that are wanting to invest in an African country, but they have trouble getting along with the people
now
because
they
of
need
cultural
somebody who's
differences.
tapped into
Right. But then I was never really interested in working in the NGO world, and I'd always been
We'll
writing.
We'll get to that. It's very interesting. Yeah, go on.
Very skeptical.
Yeah. Go on. You're
And
into
then-
writing?
Yeah, I was always into writing, and then someone said, maybe you can make your living out of this. And I was like, ugh, whatever. But then I had to pick something that I was going to minor in, and then I just signed up for journalism. And started doing an internship at VICE. That's how I ended up there. Because I'd written a piece before I started interning at VICE that went viral in my country that was about racism in the Netherlands. And they were like, oh, you're the girl who wrote the piece on racism in Holland. Yeah, you can
It's
come. I don't know if it's still around. This was years ago.
Oh, when you're like just starting off, probably uni days and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they knew me from that piece, and then they said, yeah, you can come intern for us. So I did that. And then writing turned out to be something I was good at. So I just continued doing it.
You ran with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Are you comfortable eating on camera, like with the chewing noises and stuff, or can you?
No,
cancel
I'm kind of like leaning towards when I'm chewing. I'm kind of like leaning towards.
Right.
And I'm just eating like one piece at a time. So because I feel
That's
sorry for the
wise.
people who are listening.
I know, it's so
people who are
gross.
listening. It's just it's just not right to take people through it when they're trying to listen to something that's actually something that is interesting or supposed to be important. So, getting into the journalism world, of course, you're interested in writing and everything. Oh wow, I'm just going to pour all that.
I told you I eat like shit.
What?
Proving it to you right
This
now.
is insane. What?
Leave me alone. Continue.
So those people who can't see and you're listening, she just poured like a whole bowl of syrup like through the pancakes. It just looks like madness. I'd get a heart attack from just taking a bite of that.
I can take it.
Oh, okay. So, what intrigued you specifically about like just Uganda and Kenya? Because that's what you chose to actually study.
Yeah. So, very long story short, So I grew up in the south of Holland, which is not very urban. There's not a lot to do there. I was bored most of the time, and I used to live on an island when I grew up.
What do you mean? That's the most beautiful thing that you can ever ask for.
It's beautiful over there, but then you don't really know the weather in Holland. It's raining most of the time.
Oh, so it's not like our
it's not
kind
like a
of
tropical island.
Oh, it's not like our
God,
Zanzibar
no.
or Mombasa.
I wish.
Okay, yeah, then that would be sad for me as well. Yeah.
So I grew up in a little village, and then in the village right next to me was my boyfriend was living there at the time, my ex-boyfriend, and he was fully African. He grew up in Holland, but his mom was from Congo, his dad was from Sierra Leone, but was also half Nigerian, so he had a very diverse background. But he had grown up in a very wide environment, so he didn't really know much about where his parents came from. And then we started dating when I was 17, almost 18. He was 2 years older. Yeah. And then I was kind of intrigued by where he came from, but he couldn't tell me anything about it because he didn't know.
He didn't know it?
No, he didn't know.
Yeah.
So then I just started reading myself, reading books, watching documentaries. And then eventually I completed secondary school when I was 19, and then I decided, I want to go to Africa and save the world. But I didn't know where to start. I didn't know anything. So I decided to contact some, company in Holland that was organizing these volunteer trips to sub-Saharan Africa, and then they had a couple countries that they had projects in, and I decided to choose Malawi for some reason. I thought out of all the countries on the list, Malawi was the poorest, so I thought they could probably use the help the most over there. That was my reasoning behind it. And then I convinced my boyfriend at the time to go with me. He was like, I don't want to go. So I whined until he was like, okay, I'll go with you.
He actually came through with you?
Yes, so we went there together for about a month. We did the voluntary work, which made no sense at all. Like, it wasn't helping at all. It was just... I think it was mainly focused on, giving the volunteers a good feeling about themselves and you've done so much for us, but it was actually not contributing at all.
We'll get to that. To that.
So, but even though I knew that the work that I was doing made no sense at all, I kind of fell in love with Malawi and the people, and then my ex and I met a guy that we eventually befriended, a Malawian guy. His name is Wayne, and he wanted to finish secondary school, but he didn't have the financial means. So then he was like, "Sure, can you help me out?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm a student and I don't have any money, so I can't really help you, but I can try to set something up for you to earn money." So he would send me bracelets that he would make himself, and then I would sell them for him, and with the money that he gathered, he was able to finish secondary school. And then from there out, I just wanted to see more of Africa below the Sahara. And I visited Uganda, and then after having visited Uganda, I started doing the Africa Studies thing at university. So I had only seen like very small parts of Africa before I started doing that course at university, but that's how I got interested in the continent.
At least in the continent.
Yes.
And just in general, I mean, when it comes to things like travel, are there not any other places that you now currently like just enjoy traveling to? Or like your heart is just won by Africa?
Yeah, I've always said I want to see or at least part of every African country before I die. So that's that's on your list.
On
my to-do list. But like I said, my sister lives in the US, so I usually go there a lot. Usually.
So if it's not US, Africa.
Yeah. I've never seen any part of Asia. Planning to, though.
Ever?
No, I've never been to Asia. I've never been to South America. Yeah, so there's still a lot to see for me.
Africa is beautiful, but as long as you're already traveling, you can always just move around and see what's up.
Yeah.
But definitely Africa is special because I think there's still so much culture and things like are still evolving and everything.
Yeah, and it's so diverse
It's
as well.
so diverse.
Yeah.
And how, because I saw somewhere you say that Uganda is like your favorite.
Yeah.
I was just like disappointed. I was just like, what?
Kenya is a close second, though.
What? Yeah, of course, we can definitely tell Kenya is second. Okay, how comes? Why Uganda?
I think in some ways Kampala is kind of, because I used to live in Kampala, that's why I mainly resided.
Yeah.
I think Kampala in some ways is comparable to Nairobi, but it's just smaller and a little safer. And I have a lot of friends there, so that helps. And then also when you're stuck in traffic in Kampala, it's usually not more for than half an hour. Whereas here you can be stuck in traffic for 3 hours.
You know, I was trying to figure out, like, you know, how you're going to get here.
Right. I meant to take a boda, but the guy didn't show up, so then I had to order.
No, but today is the perfect. Apparently, there's no traffic anywhere.
Why?
That's the thing. Why? Please, the government, explain to us why there's no traffic today. Already used to it.
They did this especially for you.
But, you know, yeah, of course, you've said your friends and all those things that, you know, keep you grounded with the Ugandans.
I think Kampala's just, in some ways, kind of like a friendlier version of Nairobi.
Really?
Yeah.
Are people more friendly than Kenyans?
I mean...
Or in what sense?
No, not the people necessarily, but you just feel a little bit safer.
Yeah, because like, you know, Nairobi, everybody's like hustling. Especially like right now, everybody's just hustling and, you know, even if when somebody's smiling at you, you wouldn't really know their kind of intentions. Yeah, but
what do they want?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was saying, and I was talking to my friend, like, it's gotten to a point where like, we're just like so traumatized with everything that's fast-paced going on, and we're trying to keep up with everything that even when somebody's just being nice to you, like they say, like, you know, how are you? How's your day?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Are
they trying? Are they trying to set me up? What's going on? So yeah, but that's Nairobi for you. That's Nairobi, and I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But in general, how would you say like just Africa has impacted you as a person? Because you talk as if like, you know, you have like it has like a soft spot on you. Yeah. How has it like impacted you? Because, you know, I know you're not up for the whole NGO thing, which we'll get to that. But I can still see like, you know, it's definitely like won your heart somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus you've liked, you know, like, you know, African boys from a young age, I can say that. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying like, okay, apart from the boys, what else? What else?
Kenyan man, no.
No?
No.
What?
I've dated a few Kenyans, it was not a success.
Come on.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You're lying.
I dated the wrong ones.
Yeah, you know.
Probably.
Because that's the thing. You pick all the wrong ones, and then now it's like everybody has to be put in like the same basket with all these other idiots who've ruined everything for us. Come on.
But I mean, I would usually, whenever I'm in Kenya, I'm usually dating athletes because they're only people that are taller than I am.
So you
Like
can't date a short guy?
Kenyan guys, well,
Most Kenyan guys are short?
shorter than I am.
Okay, yeah,
I
you're
would say
6. You're 6.
6'1".
So what's 6'1"?
Yeah.
So what's your cutoff point? For somebody to qualify, what's the cutoff point?
Like maybe 6 feet. Nah, like
6?
maybe if they come up like this would be the max.
Come on, as long as you're not leaning down to hug someone or carrying them when you're, you know,
I don't know.
making
it just
out
makes
with
me
them.
feel very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay, now we'll get that when we get to the dating segment. We have a lot to talk about when we get to that. But what's the, how would you say like it's just impacted you in general? Because you do sound like you legit do care about
So it
just
has
the continent.
Yeah, it has affected my entire career path, of course. Also with the book that I'm writing right now, which we'll probably cover later.
Yeah, we will.
I always feel like Africa is such a misunderstood continent back home. Like people even think that people think when I tell them that I live in Nairobi that I live in a little Maasai house, you know?
You're lying.
And then I show
That's
them
not possible.
And then I show them pictures of the Nairobi skyline. And they're like, "This is in Africa."
You're lying.
People are just.
But how's that
so
possible?
dumb.
Because we have internet. Come on.
Yeah, but we don't get taught a lot of stuff about Africa in secondary school.
Oh, they don't. So not unless it's personal interest, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't really know.
How about like things like, because I know like now Afrobeats is super huge
True.
in Europe.
In Europe
Don't
as
people
well.
do like research about like, no, they just like the music, but I assume this music is made in huts or
yeah, and
in
then
villages.
The thing that annoys me is that there's a lot of white guys back home who start producing Afrobeats, and I'm like, maybe just don't. And then they start playing their gigs and they wear dashikis and stuff, and I'm like,
Wow.
no.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But it's not the same. Like, even from you, it's not the same. But from anybody who's in Africa, they're like, you know what? You're actually pushing the envelope, and people are starting to embrace and love the culture. Or is it in a different way?
I mean, they love certain aspects about African cultures, I guess, but they don't really.
Pick what's trendy, what's edgy, what's
the
like
music,
what's
the
the
clothing,
Mhm.
right? But they don't really have a genuine interest in the
in
people.
Africa and the people.
Yeah,
That's okay. That's
is what I notice.
mhm.
And
So yeah, we're talking about
Yeah.
like the impact that Africa has, like just made on you.
yeah, so I'm usually trying to. It's funny because whenever people always ask me, like, "Oh, you live in Africa," and I'm like, "Do you know how big Africa is? There's 54 countries."
It's insane.
And then they like some people genuinely think that Africa is a country.
And that's madness now, because
It happens.
but you see, the thing is, when we say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. But if somebody thinks like that, it just shows like, they're definitely not interested in anything else, probably apart from their surrounding. They just don't care about
No,
anything.
and I was interning for a Dutch TV channel for a while, which is one of the biggest networks in the Netherlands, and we were producing all the topics related to Africa. And then the guy that I was working with was a Dutch guy living in Johannesburg, so I was staying in Johannesburg for a while, working for him. And then he got a little cynical over time because he would always pitch these great ideas about all kinds of topics, showing a different side of Africa to the Netherlands. But then his bosses would always be like, "No, people don't care. The only thing that they want to see is either crying hungry kids or
That's
elephants.
True. Well, that's true.
There's nothing in between."
But you see, there's so
People
much,
care about.
but there's so much more, and I
Yeah.
think that's why, let's say, the way you're talking about being a freelance, it's up to you now to actually paint a different narrative
Yeah.
or just showcase a different part of Africa.
Yeah, and I try to.
Because your experiences are definitely, I can say, they're very different from what I've seen, like just on your. Because, like, I think even like 2 episodes ago, we're talking about the poverty porn thing, and
That is a big thing.
it is,
Yeah.
but I didn't even know, because it didn't even cross my mind at all, because I've been hired so many times to take these pictures.
Have you never seen groups of white people doing tours through Kibera,
I have.
taking pictures of?
We talked about that on the podcast, and I'll tag you on that conversation.
Okay.
We talked, and Larry Madowo he's one of like a top journalists in Kenya. He was being asked in a BBC segment in UK about like poverty porn, his thoughts,
Yeah.
and was saying like, what, we have a whole industry dedicated to that, and people can actually
True.
come tour, and if you feel sorry enough for a kid, you can tip them with £1 or 2 or 3,
Right.
give them a smile and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And take a picture for Instagram. And then in my mind I was just like, oh shit, I've been hired to do this like in the past, and I was actually part of that. But
In what way were you a part of this? Like what
I
would
was
happen?
hired to take pictures of people with the kids. Yeah, I've done it like enough times in the past, but now I can't do it.
No, I get it.
But,
I
but
get
it
why.
depends with a check. No, but I'm just saying, it's something that I'd never thought about it like that.
Right.
And it's just something that you have to be, I think, woke to understand exactly But it's just like, I think, just being educated about exactly what people might be coming to do in your country. Like you said, somebody just wants to feel good about themselves. They are not actually contributing or helping each other. And I think the worst part, I think, where was it? I can't remember where it was. And I think there was some donations which were being given out and stuff. And like, just typical Kenyans, like, outside Nairobi.
Right.
They don't get a lot of interaction from anything that's from outside the country, whether it's gifts or whatever. It might be something small.
Yeah.
So they were giving out these things and people were like, what? Or fighting for them and stuff.
Yeah.
So I remember I saw one person like just dabbing their friend like, yo, take a picture.
Disgusting.
And but the thing is, I was like the only black person who was there hired to actually do that. Mm-hmm. And like the whole other group was like, and then I just started like questioning myself when I was going on, like, was I doing the right thing or no? But the check was just too good, man. I won't even lie. It was one of those times like after election, there was no business, there was nothing going on. It was just like, but it's not right. Yeah, but it's not right. But then after that, with a bit of more research and everything, and all these stories coming up, it now started making sense. I was like, yeah, we also need to protect our people. Just because they are not exposed to some things, it shouldn't mean like we actually display that side of them.
I remember I was, a couple of years ago, I was living in Kampala.
Yeah.
And I was working with this NGO that we'll get into later. But then they had, they would usually get the kids that they were caring for from this children rehabilitation center that also kind of functions as a prison. It's still there. So it's called Kampiringkisa. It's like an hour outside of Kampala.
Uh-huh.
So we would go there once a week and, try and entertain the kids and maybe try to negotiate with the guy who ran the place to maybe see if we could, get a couple of kids out and take them with us.
Yeah.
Because the conditions there were not the best.
They're not the best.
But then every week that I was there would be tourists coming in, usually Americans, that were linked, or usually they were donating to NGOs that would visit this prison from time to time. So these NGOs would be like, do you want to see the kids' prison? We can go on a fun trip. Bus full of Americans. And then, I would be walking around that facility and then there would be a bus pulling up full of white Americans.
Yeah.
And, the things that I witnessed, one day they had all this candy with them and they were sitting in the bus because they didn't want to get out because they thought the kids were dirty.
Are they throwing the
candy?
They
were throwing candy out of the window and then taking pics of the kids while they were
scrambling for the candy. Yeah.
And fighting each other for some food.
That's the same thing I'm talking about. But at first that didn't hit my mind, but after like a lot of people talking and having like those conversations, I was like, man, I wouldn't want to be part of that like right now at all. Yeah. But also educate people on why it's not, because there are people who definitely just don't know. They don't know, like if somebody says, let me take a picture with your kid, they don't know why this person is doing that. And
especially for expats living here, most of them are so unaware of the colonial history of Kenya and how the Brits behaved around here during the days of independence, and they really they don't know. They have no idea, and they usually don't care either.
And I think that's why when you mention something like that, we also have to highlight when somebody is doing that, you'd find the craziest part is when somebody's doing it and they really are not aware of what they're doing. Because somebody's doing that, posting on Instagram, on their Insta stories and everything. Yeah. And even like their friend, they'll be like, oh my God, I want to come and play with African kids. Like, bro. Yeah. I'm like, what?
And then their caption is always like, I want to take this one home. No, you don't.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to leave it here.
Oh, yeah. No, it's just like, it's just like a twisted side of things that, I just don't know. I don't even know what I'm supposed to think about it.
I always tell people what if you would be at home in Amsterdam and there would be a bunch of Kenyans or Ugandans coming in, going on a tour through the city, taking pictures of our kids? Wouldn't you find that the weirdest thing?
Especially like the kids, like, even
without permission from the parents.
Yeah. Would you even do that?
Yeah, no, you would never.
Yeah. So I'm just guessing, like, if that's already like a culture from where you're coming from, don't take advantage of people who are not like,
right.
Just because of their situation, they wouldn't be like able to say no or anything. So
yeah, it's
just a weird conversation to have and discuss about, because I've been in situations and I know some people who do that. And it's just like, yeah. But like right now, for me, all I can do is like highlight that on the podcast and definitely let people be aware of that. Because I even did like a statistics thing where I asked people like, do you know what poverty porn is?
Do they know?
And 70% of the people said they didn't know.
Really?
They didn't. And now I posted that little video where Larry was explaining what exactly it is and other pictures of people when they're doing it. Now a lot of people who are following me, who are listening to the podcast or on my Insta story, got to learn about it.
Right.
But it's not like somebody wouldn't know.
No.
Just guessing if you meet like that old mama in Nairobi streets chilling with the kid, and you take a picture with the kid and toss a coin there, they wouldn't know if it's...
And it's also, if you want to take a picture of someone that badly, ask them.
Just ask.
Don't just do it without
you can actually
permission.
have a proper interaction with someone and actually get that picture. So, but now I understood the difference between just genuinely like having a good time and taking a picture and those people who actually like pose, grouping like a group of like 12 or 16 kids and then take a picture with them.
Right.
And then after the picture, you get back in the car and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Difficult conversations, but we have to have them though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And confront people about it definitely.
But like we said, people are not aware. The best we can do is just put it out there, educate people on it.
Yeah.
And just kill that whole ignorance thing.
Yeah. Keep the conversation going.
So, just during your stay in Kenya, what kind of pieces do you enjoy doing more? Like just let's say Kenya, or should I say Sub-Saharan?
No, it's mostly the first few months that I was here, I was working for a Dutch travel agency that's based in Nairobi. So they were developing new itineraries and new routes that their clients could take. So we would, go on trips, and I would have to produce content, written content, about the things that we were doing to, make people aware of all the activities they could do when they were traveling through. We were traveling through the northern part of Tanzania and the coast. So that was fun because, you meet all these people along the way. And
could you imagine if you were doing that on video?
Yeah, we were vlogging as well. There's a lot of videos on there that you can look up. So we had a whole team. I was the writer, and then there were two
No, I'm talking about
producers.
you. I'm talking about you being in the video and talking about...
Yeah, so no, I wasn't in the video. I was behind the scenes all the time.
Then I don't care about
so
the
my
other
former
things.
boss who runs the company...
I don't care about your boss, no.
Yeah, he's...
No,
so he would do the presenting.
I'm playing, yeah.
He would do the presenting. So I was working behind the scenes, which I enjoy because, like I said, I don't like seeing my face on camera. People always say, can't you start vlogging? And then I try, but then I watch...
No, you can do it.
Watch it back, and I'm so annoyed with myself.
That's, here's the thing. Can't. You just go to any YouTubers like fast videos, or just look for
cringe
tips and stuff. Everybody's always saying, and even for me, that was the thing. I used to be like, I can do like great content, but I used to like try and get other people to like host this for me. So now when everybody if somebody decides to quit, how's it going? I'll call him later. So that's Effie saying to just rudely interrupting the podcast, but I'll call him later.
Shaming your friend.
Yeah. So anyway, what was I saying?
That you were asking other people to host your videos.
Yeah, let me produce this for you. But it was very tricky because anytime somebody feels dissatisfied, or they have perhaps a jealous boyfriend, the whole project has to go to shit because of something so petty.
Yeah.
And that happened so many times. So I was like, you know what? I know I don't like seeing myself on camera and everything, but I have to start putting myself out there.
Right.
I started putting myself out there with pictures and videos, and I was like, people actually like this shit. So let's do this. And people started, and I also started like just, it was like, I can say this, it was actually therapeutic even for me.
Really?
I started like appreciating myself more because I'm like, all these people are appreciating what I do. They like me. Somebody's making comments about like my hair, something that I'm rocking or something. It just makes you feel like, a bit like special, and you're like, okay, now let's do this. So now you see, even like when I'm producing this whole thing, I don't need anyone here.
No, and you have fans coming up to you.
Yes, but I'm just saying, it just gives you like a little bit more, it adds value to who you are, like just as a person, as a brand.
Yeah, maybe I'll try one day. I don't
just
know.
try. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. Come on, And if you ever need assistance, you know who to call now. You
But
do
I'm
know
leaving the country.
Damn it. Damn it. And okay, just like you've talked about, we've touched a bit on a lot when it comes just to work. And I was asking you like, what were your favorite pieces to cover? So far.
The thing for me is that I mostly write for women's magazines and VICE, of course.
Yeah.
And then the occasional other odd job. But I haven't really written that much on Africa the past couple months. It's usually, so I'm still kind of doing the same work that I was doing back home, just from Nairobi. So I can mostly write about the same topics that I was writing about at home.
Oh, but you can do it actually. Like,
yeah, but I can do it here.
Okay.
So I write a lot about mental health, women's rights. I try to write about Africa as much as I can. So I did write a couple pieces on the orphanage industry that I was telling you about.
Wait, which one?
Did I not tell you? So I'm writing the...
Are you confusing me for somebody else? Did they have braids like me as well?
Yeah, because it was a good thing that every Kenyan looks alike. No, but I was telling you I'm writing a book about the orphanage
we'll
industry.
get to that.
Yeah, so I've written articles on the same topic as well.
Ah, okay.
I've written on that. That's one of the most intriguing topics,
things like
I would
to
say.
you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And but before we get to that, what's like the craziest thing that you've ever like just featured as a writer, and you're like, you know what? Because for me, the craziest story I can ever say that I watched on VICE was this story of Colombia, and how like these teenage boys, like, before they get their whole initiation process, before they start like having like sex with mature girls and everything, apparently it's okay to fuck a donkey. And I saw that and I was like, just like, what in the hell is this? And it was covered so properly by VICE, and they were actually interviewing people, and people's uncles were like, you know what? Yeah, this is nice, so that before they know how to deal with a woman in bed, they can actually, practice on a donkey. But no, listen. I'm rolling your eyes, listen. But the scariest part was how normal this was. But you also have to keep into consideration when people are in a different environment and they're just not doing what you guys consider normal. As crazy as it might seem to you, it's normal shit to them. So like even girls were being asked, they were like, yeah, there was this guy who was like describing how a donkey looks and how it listen.
I have respect for all cultures.
This is covered
100%. But as soon as people start hurting animals, I just get vicious. Like it hurts me in my core.
No.
And having sex with like raping donkeys, ugh, no.
No, that was ridiculous, cause like even animal activists wouldn't know where they should come in and start like protest. Cause what would you protest, man? And they had like a specific way to even tell like when a donkey is like on heat.
Really?
And they logically explained it was covered by VICE.
But I haven't seen every VICE documentary. Do you know how many there are?
That's a ridiculous one. You can't miss. Like, trust me. Just
I'll look it up.
Just on YouTube, just donkey donkey fucking in Colombia or something.
Okay.
It will pop up. That
Okay.
was like, so that's a good example of what, like, I'm saying, like, that was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Right.
Okay, I'm not saying ridiculous. I respect their culture and what they do to, what they consider normal to them.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, to me, it was like, I can't wrap my head around that.
No.
No, I can't. I just can't. I
Yeah.
I refuse to accept that.
Mhm.
So, what would you say has been like the craziest thing you've ever like had to write about, experience, just as a writer in general, and it left you like just still like trying to.
I just like listening to people's personal stories. So I just talked to a lady. I haven't fully interviewed her yet, but she has a very intense life story. So she was forced to work into child pornography by the time that she was 2, up until
By the time she was what?
2 years old, like a toddler, up until the time
Okay,
she was
that
an
doesn't.
adult.
Okay.
So those kinds of stories always have an impact on me, and I try to, whenever I'm writing down someone's life story, I try to be as careful as I can, not twist any words, be as accurate as I can, and then have them read through the piece before I publish anything.
Yeah.
And then the best thing is when they're like, "Thank you for writing this down so well."
Yeah.
That is the best compliment that you can get. And for VICE, I think the pieces that were most prominent for me, because my life has been pretty hectic up until this point as well.
Hey, we
So-
have time. We have time to talk about it. We have time.
So I would write very personal stories for VICE as well. Like my whole entire personal life is out there on the internet. And
I wish I knew that before the podcast.
but it's mostly in Dutch. So you could
Come on, I can't.
you
Like,
could use Google Translate.
come on, it's too much work, man.
It is. But those, and then you'd always have people coming up to you that you don't know,
And actually,
like I have the same thing going on, and asking for advice and stuff. So, I think those stories kind of they left the biggest impact on me, I would say.
you say like at times you have to tap into like a more personal like experience to actually be able to communicate well, like on pen and paper or when you're typing it.
Yeah, and I think when you're interviewing somebody who has a very intense story that they're talking about, it helps when you also tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah.
So it helps to be open on both sides.
So
I
that they
usually
can
do that.
feel
Yeah.
can feel like it's a safe space to actually share this
Yeah.
kind of story.
Yeah, and then you will have people coming up to you that are like, I've read some of your pieces that you've written about personal life stories. I think I have an interesting story for you about my life. Do you want to write it down for me? So that is always the biggest compliment that I can get, I think.
It gives you a sense of purpose in actually what you're doing. Like, you
Yeah.
know what, I actually connected with someone, and this is the kind of feeling that I'd want to receive every time, like I'm just writing an article, I guess.
Yeah, so this is mostly on mental health, the stories that I'm talking about right now. So
Should we touch on mental health? Because like that's
sure.
like pretty big, right? Like right now in Nairobi, they're saying like, suicide rate is going up.
Is that really true?
It is.
In Nairobi?
Yes.
Nairobi specifically, or the whole of Kenya?
Not even like, there's a feature that was done by BBC, and it was so crazy because like even when they were doing like the coverage, they left one household to go and interview the next household, and somebody from a household that they had just left actually committed suicide.
Really?
It's that crazy.
That's very intense.
And I think they was also saying kind of like it's higher in men, apparently, the suicide rate.
Yeah, I think
Slightly
that's
higher.
global.
It is.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's the case though?
I think because men, like we, in Kenya, but also in Western countries, we live in a patriarchal society, and men are not really expected to talk about anything that they're feeling, which means they'll keep things to themselves.
Would you like if you had a boyfriend, would you like your boyfriend to come and talk to you about his problems?
That is the one thing that I always end up not hating but disliking about guys, the fact that they're like unable to communicate in a proper way. And I know that's
You
not,
like that?
no, I hate it. But that
yeah.
is, it's not even entirely their fault because that's the way they were raised. But it's one thing, it just bothers me because I'm always very open about anything that I'm
But you're
feeling. And yeah.
we're supposed to be there, like provide a shoulder for you to lean on. Doesn't it say that in the song?
I'm always the shoulder providing support to someone else.
What? Even guys?
Yes.
Do guys come and lean on your shoulder and cry
Yes.
about their problems?
Yeah. I don't,
Who are these soft-ass people that you're talking about? But that's the thing. It might be like some of the people you think are the strongest who are going like through some of the craziest things emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
But also then again, we also don't need like... we still do need strong men mentally to be there.
Yeah, but you can still be strong and talk
cry
about your
over
feelings
and
at the same time and
talk
cry
about
from
my
time
feelings
to time.
and cry on your shoulder.
Yes.
That's not gonna happen.
It will.
It's not gonna happen.
No, but I think for me, because like
how do you make them do that? First of all, do you promise them something?
No,
they just come to you and on your shoulder and start crying. Like, I had a long day.
I think for me, it's not even just with guys that I'm attracted to. It's people in general. I think because I've had so much therapy in my life that I've become very
almost
open
like a therapist.
I'm very open about my problems, and I'm like through therapy I've learned to communicate about my feelings in a constructive way, and for some reason that attracts certain people.
Soft people, soft men.
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay.
Like
anybody's entitled to be into what they like. I mean, come on.
It's not even a thing I'm necessarily into. It just happens to me. But that's.
But why would you say that's a global thing? What do you think is the major problem that's causing like a lot of guys to just flip out? Because like even in Kenya, there's this whole thing, femicide thing that's actually now rampant. Like guys are actually like losing it and just killing their girlfriends, stabbing them, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. I'm like, what?
Are the numbers really rising in Kenya as well when it comes to femicide? Yeah.
Oh yeah, like in the past like few weeks, let's say in the past 3 months, and it's crazy killing. It's not even like just like it's like there was this incident where somebody like bought an axe, traveled all the way to a different province, and hacked the girlfriend or alleged girlfriend to death in broad daylight in front of people. Because when somebody's walking with an axe,
you don't really think
they're going to chop a tree. There's no way you're going to use that axe on someone.
Right.
This guy ended up going to like actually kill a campus girl in the middle of like just the street.
So he clearly wanted to inflict as much pain as he possibly could.
And at that state, he clearly doesn't care about the repercussions of whether he's going to go to jail, serve a life sentence, or if you guys are going to do like a mob justice thing. He just doesn't care.
What happened to him?
He got like a bit of a mob justice, like Kenyan style. People mobbed on him.
But they didn't kill him.
But no, they didn't kill him. The cops came, but now he's like, it's an ongoing like court case and everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was just crazy. Like, a lot of people just didn't understand. But then a few weeks later, something else happened again. And after like 2 weeks again, something else also happened. Like guys are just killing like their girlfriends, like just...
I think violence towards women is rampant everywhere, not just in Kenya. It happens in Europe as well. Like I have so many friends that have gotten raped, have been sexually assaulted. I would say every woman in my surroundings has had to deal with sexual intimidation, at least. And I've always been very open about this, and people find this weird, but I was raped in Kenya as well back in September when I just got here. I went out with a couple of friends, and then a guy that I sort of knew, but I didn't know him well. I suspect that he drugged me, and then he raped me back in my hotel. So that happened in September. And then, I kept quiet about it for some time. And then after about 2 months, I think, I started speaking out about it because I think it's a topic that needs to be talked about.
Definitely.
And he didn't even realize what he'd done wrong, or he was just playing mind games with me. Could have been both. I don't know what his intentions were.
That's crazy though, because
yeah, but then people would tell me, yeah, that's what happens when you live in Africa, you get raped. And I'm like, no, this shit happens everywhere.
But the funny thing is, the craziest thing about you is like, when you're telling certain stories, you're just speaking about them so casually.
I think that's also thanks to therapy.
And that's what's that's what's scary to me. I'm like,
I'm kind of able to step outside of my mind for a bit and then look at my situation from another perspective, from a person that it didn't happen to. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So
yes and no.
Looking at it as objectively as possible, so I can also talk about this shit without crying and stuff.
Yeah.
Because if I get really into it, then I'll get emotional at some point. But for me, like
from that mind frame, like, okay, so what do you do next? Do you report it, or did you just let it go, or?
I did not report it.
Why?
I chose
because I think that's the whole debate. Like, even when people are talking about the whole Me Too movement, and since you brought it up, it has still been like an ongoing issue, both like in the States, Europe, and even just locally.
Yeah.
The Me Too movement and everything, and the people who are saying these of course are not the most intelligent people who are like, this girl put themselves like in this position, and
you hear that so much.
And why didn't they speak sooner? And it's just like a whole process thing. It's just like, don't wake up in the morning and run to the cops and start saying,
right,
this and this happened. Like, it's a whole different.
Yeah.
But how do you process that? Just how? Why not take a step to report or?
So
hold that thought first. Hold that thought. If it's something that happened, and I'm just asking, like, from, I'm thinking about it like if it was my sister or my friend at that time, and because I've just known you a few hours ago, right?
Yeah.
48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, if we're close as a friend, and maybe a was your brother, cousin, or just somebody who's close to you, my question would be like, if this is something that's happened, why wouldn't you want to take that step and report, or just why are you processing it alone? Do other people know?
Yeah, other people know. I've talked about this, and I've actually written an article about it that's going to be published within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
In a women's magazine back home. But I don't want to get into too much detail.
Yeah.
Because it might also be triggering the people. I don't know. But the guy that assaulted me raped me with a condom. Which, while it was happening to me, I was very happy about, because I was afraid of, getting some sort of STD or something. So at first I was very happy about the fact that he did that. But then afterwards, when he was done, he took the condom home. So, and at first I didn't understand why he did that. I thought I maybe didn't remember correctly. I thought to myself, why would he take the condom home? That doesn't make any sense. So after it happened, I was kind of in a shock, and I searched my room a couple times looking for it, because I thought, that's weird, why would he take it? And then the next morning I went to the hospital, Aga Khan, and then I talked about one of the nurses about what happened to me, and she's like, well, he probably did that because so you wouldn't have any physical evidence
DNA
against him, right? And there wouldn't be any DNA left inside of you. So they could still do, the whole shebang and try to get DNA from me that may have been left behind. But I knew that whole process was very traumatizing, so I chose not to, because the chances that they were going to find something were so little anyways. So in the end, if I would have gone to court, then it would have been my word against his, because there was no evidence whatsoever, and he was just going to say it had been a one-night stand.
Oh, twist it around.
Which is also what he kept
but have you
telling other people after.
But have you confronted, like, had a conversation with him about?
I think I was too scared. He knew that he'd done something wrong, because right after it happened, I was in and out of consciousness during the whole thing. Like, I don't remember most parts.
Yeah.
But then I remember being very clear-minded when he was done, and then I just panicked, and I was crying and hyperventilating, and I was having a full-blown panic attack, and he was still in the room. And this guy, this fucking guy looks at me and he's like, "Charlotte, what's wrong? Why are you crying?" And then he ordered an Uber and asked me if he could stay in my room to wait for the Uber to arrive, because it was pretty far away. And then I just flipped entirely. I cussed at him, and I was so angry, and I was screaming, and then he just left the room, and I barricaded the door with all the furniture in the room. So he knows very well what he did, and I think he planned the whole thing, because, like, who takes a freaking condom home after they've supposedly had a one-night stand with somebody? That just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Maybe it's something they've done plenty of times.
Yeah, so later I started asking around about him, and people have told me, yeah, he does this more often. This is not the first time this has happened.
But you know what? Just say something. And that's so crazy. But there is, like, you know, I just don't want it. I'm always just, like, you know, hearing stories about, like, certain groups of people. But, you know, for me, I'm always thinking, like, it's just like speculations and stuff. But there are some group of people who are known to be like, that's always like speculation about them doing that. But it's just unfortunate, because I think also, like, if the government wants to do something, okay, I don't know what the solution is though, because even at times, like, when people are saying about, first of all, I'm so sorry that happened to you.
Thanks.
That's not, like, you know, a good experience that you want. Even, like, of course, even like how your friends, maybe some people from Netherlands would say, like, you know, that's what you get for. But this could easily happen.
People weren't saying that it was my fault, but they were like, this sort of thing happens when you move to Kenya. And I'm like,
it's not. It's not a Kenyan thing.
It's not a thing that just happens in Kenya. I have friends back home in Holland who have gotten raped, who were drugged in a club and then raped as well.
Through the same thing. Maybe you're going out, having a good time with people, and I think also, like, that whole thing. I think though, like in Kenya, the thing about people need to learn is, like, the consent has to be taught.
Yeah.
Because going through the school process and everything, there is no single point where people are taught, like, this is how you're supposed to, like, approach a lady.
Right.
This means consent.
Even when I was going to secondary school, we were never taught about consent. We were just taught about how to protect ourselves from STDs.
Use a condom and everything. But people don't, because, like, there's always, like, that thin line conversation where people are talking about, like, you know, because she was drinking, I was drinking, and maybe they'd say, you know what, I wasn't also thinking straight, because she wasn't thinking straight. So there's that, like, whole thin line between, like, we're both intoxicated, and somebody can, you know, like you said, somebody would say, like, you know, it was a one-night stand. I was also, like, just on.
Yeah, and he was also bragging about this to people afterwards, like, oh, you know what I did. And then
I'm sorry.
He even, I think a couple times, he called me and he would WhatsApp me and ask me on dates. and
Take someone on a date, first of all, and try and caught them. Let's say caught them. I don't even want to say have sex with them anymore. I want to say, like, you know, you take someone on. And I think that's where, like, okay, I'm just glad, like, I've taught myself so many different things because I went out of my way. I understand what it is to actually take someone on a date.
Yeah.
Take someone on a club date as well. Alcohol, and, like, even now when somebody, in fact, like, even the one thing, like, I really avoid right now is, like, girls who get, like, super wasted.
Yeah, right. And
Like
if
that,
a girl
you have to go home.
wasted up to a point where she's not able to function normally, you don't.
And where's the fun in that?
Right.
First of all,
But
wouldn't
and
I
it's also
want
when
somebody
people
who's
are,
like?
But it's also people don't understand that when you're that drunk, you cannot give full consent. You don't you're not even aware of your surroundings.
You don't even.
No.
And now it takes a whole different person who's seeing that and take advantage of that. Because if you're already with me on a night out, and I'm getting like all the signs, maybe we're kissing, maybe you're being, we can still save it for next time, I'm guessing.
Right.
I just don't understand the whole thing of like you have to have it now. Now. I mean,
it's because many men just feel very entitled to women's bodies, and it's not just in Kenya. That's that's a global
worldwide thing.
Yeah. So they think that they are somehow entitled to touch you whenever they feel like it.
Okay, now I don't know how to. I can put it this way. Also, there was this whole other documentary I was watching. Mm-hmm. Was it a documentary or a TV show? We are at like the day and age where like now, and I'm just picking. I'm not saying anything about all this and that. I'm just saying we're at the day and age like right now.
Yeah.
Like when you go like let's say on social media, on Instagram and stuff, there's a whole lot of women sexualizing themselves.
But I don't think women sexualizing themselves
I know.
leads to sexual assault.
No. Can I finish?
Yeah.
Because I'm just trying to think of how these cavemen are thinking. Mm-hmm. They're like, because a normal sane person they would know they can differentiate, like even if like let's say even though a girl is dressed skimpily, I'm not supposed to like just grab her butt cheek.
Right.
It's not a welcome, it's not an invitation. Mm-hmm. But there are some people who like when they see that, like let's say on your Instagram, you can easily see all these strippers that you're following, all these girls in skimpy outfits and everything. And it's like, that's the in thing like right now. The less you wear, the more likes you get and everything, the more you expose. Kind of. So, for most of these men, if you've been like a whole week, that's what's just, you've been feeding your mind and everything. And then you get like this small leeway with that person you are envisioning on Instagram. Yeah, as I was trying to explain, for most of these young boys would take that to be sort of like an invite, even though it's not.
I always feel like...
And that's a worldwide thing. It's not like just an African thing.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's definitely not.
Yeah.
In general, I feel as if a lot of men are comfortable with sexualizing women as long as they do it themselves. But as soon as a girl starts owning her sexuality and starts sexualizing herself, being in control of her own society, that angers a lot of guys for some reason. And they want to try and take that control back, is what I sense in my surroundings.
In your surroundings. Is that like because you've said like you do a lot of, when you're writing like your articles, it's all about a lot of women's I think issues and things that they're going through, experiences and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know how to touch on this subject though, because it's such a sensitive topic, and I wouldn't want somebody to listen or watch and take anything like the wrong way, because I'm just trying to think, even though these men know it's wrong, how comes people still comfortable doing the same thing over and over and over again?
Yeah, because they somehow feel entitled to women's bodies. I have some friends that are sex workers. So, like, I have friends that are working in sex clubs.
Sex workers?
Yeah, and I know girls who sell...
Where do you stay?
Huh?
Netherlands.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, that's where it's...
There are sex workers everywhere.
No, but there at least has you have a system. They pay tax and everything, right?
most of them. You can do the work legally and illegally.
Okay. So
Yeah.
please go on with the story about.
So I know girls who will sell their nudes for money,
Yeah.
and for some, like most of them do this on Twitter, and for some reason that angers so many guys, and they will get a shitload of hatred every single day. But these are the same men who will
Buying.
buy. Well, not no. I feel like most guys feel like they're entitled to porn, so they will want the product for free. And these are the same guys hating on these girls for selling their nudes.
Yeah.
Will watch, go on Pornhub in the evening and wank to some girl on screen and then go to sleep. And
I don't complain. I'm just saying.
It's so hypocritical. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because these women are owning their sexuality and making a profit off of it. That is why it angers these guys. And you don't even necessarily have to make a profit off of it. I mean, you could be, taking pictures in skimpy outfits and posting those on your Instagram as a girl, and you will also get hatred.
Yeah.
And I feel like
I think we just don't know. Nobody knows how they're supposed to react like right now, because I was having a conversation last week with a friend of mine. She's with the whole Free the Nipple campaign and everything.
Good for her. I'm all for it.
No, yeah, but I was just trying to explain to her, like, when you put it out on the internet, not everybody's going to interpret it as an intelligent person who's going to school and they have manners and they know they're not supposed to say this and that. I'd say, like, for me, I was asking her, how am I supposed to show appreciation without overreaching? Am I supposed to compliment the nipple? Am I supposed to say, like, no, listen.
What a beautiful nipple.
No, yeah. And that's what I was exactly telling her. Like, should I say, like, you know what? I love how gorgeous your breasts look today. Yeah. But, because, I mean, that's just like a compliment. And I was being honest. I was like, if I like them and I like how they look, should I just double tap or should I leave a comment and say, like,
You don't have to leave a comment. I mean, women's boobs are just overly sexualized. And they're just little bags of fat with a nipple on them. Like, get over yourself. It's just a fucking nipple.
So you say.
Yeah. Like, it annoys me to no end. But I feel like the biggest problem when it comes to sexual assault, which is very rampant in Kenya, but everywhere, I would say, is that we teach girls how to put themselves in less danger. Like, don't wear that skimpy outfit, and maybe don't drink too much, and stick around your friends at all times. There's all these ways that you have to learn how to be safer around men as a girl, that you're taught from a very early age on.
Yeah.
And it is ridiculous that we have to adjust ourselves to a situation in which men are mostly the attacker. So instead of girls...
Subconsciously, like, in your mind, it's just like,
So instead of teaching girls how to protect themselves from rapists, we should be teaching boys to not rape.
But it's so crazy, why?
What?
Because I saw my friend who was doing like kickboxing classes, and I was asking her, like, why do you think it's necessary for you to practice? Right. And she was like, self-defense. And I was like, self-defense for what? She's like, again, it's rape. And I was just like, but you see, as a guy in my head, walking around, that doesn't even cross my mind at all.
No.
But, like, if you go, like, people are generally, like, just scared of, that's an issue.
I mean, if you talk to your female friends and you would ask them about all the ways in which they make sure that they're safe and nothing happens to them.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of men realize the full extent of this.
Yeah.
How that impacts your life. And I think in a city like Nairobi, you have to be even more careful.
You have to.
Which, and it angers me sometimes.
Because
we need to take all these precautions.
Because I don't think we also have, like, systems in place, especially like in Nairobi, to just that will work in favor of you in case such an incident happens.
Right. Yeah. No, that's true.
Because
I mean, a lot of people here, a lot of women here, when something like this has happened to them, they don't really know where to turn. Therapy's freaking expensive. What are you gonna do? Just deal with it by yourself. And I've noticed, even like talking to my Kenyan friends about this, the thing that happened to me, they would always be like, "Yeah, but there's two sides to every story. Maybe we can talk to him first and see what his side of the story is." I'm like, "No, you were there. You know how he was behaving. You know that. I've told you every single detail of what happened that night. How can you still ask me to first go to the guy and ask his side of the story and then and then judge?"
But I know I want to ask this. I don't know whether it's, but this is just coming from a different point of view, or just since you've mentioned that as well, about, the person who was saying like two sides of the story and everything. If you were to redo your steps that evening, what would you have done differently?
I think, first of all, I'm convinced of the fact that I didn't do anything wrong. It wasn't my fault at all. I know that fully.
Of course.
But ever since it happened, I've been way more careful of my drinks when I go out, because I'm almost 100% certain that he drugged me because of the way that I...
You can tell. Yeah, you can tell this is a normal high or...
Right, and I'd never felt this before because I've never taken any drugs in my life, and it didn't feel like I was drunk. It was something else entirely. So ever since that happened, whenever I get a drink in a club, I'm always walking around like this, covering the opening with my hand, and I think I've just become a little more paranoid. And I think if that night were to happen again, I wouldn't depend on my other friends that much, my male friends that were there. Like I think that I considered myself safe in a situation where I really wasn't.
Yeah.
Depending on other people too much, thinking that they would, look out for me, which they didn't. Yeah.
Sorry once again about that.
Thanks.
But just off camera, I was asking, like, how did you overcome this? Because for some people it just takes like forever to get.
Yeah, I know.
And I can only imagine, like, how do you even start, like, even now interacting like with men after such an experience? Because now everybody just seems evil.
Well, not evil, maybe suspicious.
No, yeah, but and that's why I was saying, like, I think right now in Nairobi it's very common, because I've noticed even, like, sometimes I've just been in a situation where, because I'm a very social person, I'd want to ask somebody out and I'd do, like, all the right things and everything, but there just seems like to be some disconnect,
right?
Or they're just they're going through something, and I'm always like just asking, like, yo, or maybe they'd say a statement like, you're just like all the other men, they're trying to just get, like, I'm like, yo, listen, I mean, I just thought normal people are supposed to go on a date and everything, and this is just the normal, but you see they're extra guarded, I'd say that, and they just seem a bit paranoid and paranoid as well, and I don't blame them. No. But I'm just saying, like, it's just happening a lot. But how were you able to just, like, process that? Because I think, like, a lot of girls just take, like...
right after it happened, I was in the hospital an entire day doing all, like, having conversations with doctors and counselors and nurses, and they asked me, do you want like a therapy session? And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I cried for like 10 minutes, and then I just went home afterwards, and I sort of pretended like nothing happened. I think that was just the way that it's not a healthy way, but that's the way that I dealt with it at the time. And then as the weeks progressed, I was being a little more open about it. First I told my sister and my parents, and And then I remember telling a friend of mine about it, and I knew that she'd gotten raped before. So she would probably understand what I'd gone through, and I could talk to her about it. And later on, she was like, Charlotte, the way that you talked to me that day was not normal. You were so casual about the whole thing. Like, I told her, I was raped. Not even crying, showing no emotion whatsoever. So I just continued on with my life. I was working, doing all kinds of stuff. I had gotten a little suspicious of guys. I didn't trust men that much as I did before, which was hard for me because I've always had a lot of male friends my whole entire life. And I wasn't used to not feeling safe around them. And then we were talking about this off camera. I got robbed.
Yeah, man. So it doesn't even get any better, though. Doesn't get any better.
Mean, getting robbed.
Do you want to describe that for people who don't know what we're talking about?
Yeah, so I just had a whole bunch of bad luck those months. I don't know, maybe...
Was this after or before?
Like right after.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think there were a couple weeks in between.
What?
And I just kind of sort of recovered from the first thing that happened, and then the other
That's crazy.
thing happened. because I live in Kitisuru, and that's a very safe, it's one
It
of the
is.
safest neighborhoods in the whole of Nairobi.
Yeah.
And it was 9 in the morning. Like, what happens at 9 in the morning?
So
Nothing, generally.
Just tell people what happened. You know, you're coming out of your house.
Yeah, so I was coming out of my house. I was waiting for my Uber, and the guy was supposed to be there within 3 minutes or something.
Yeah.
So I told the Askari, can you open the gate? I'll just wait outside. So I was waiting outside for not even 2 minutes, and then a guy started walking past me, and he looked kind of confused, but not dangerous. And then he was asking people on the street. He approached 2 Kenyan women, like, do you know the way to this and this place? And they were like, no, I'm sorry, I can't help you, I don't know. Then he comes up to me and he asks me the way. And I told him, no, I don't know, I'm sorry. And then he started approaching the gate of our compound, and he was looking inside to see where the Askari was. And that's when I started to get alerted, because so I stood up and I called out for the Askari.
Yeah.
I called out his name, and then this guy like flat out punched me in the face. And you know, when you get robbed, I've gotten robbed before, it's just stuff. But there's no need to punch me in the face. You could have just asked me. But I just immediately got very, very angry, and I started. I think it didn't even take a minute, but I was fighting with him. So you know, I was scratching his face, and he was pretty big, so I couldn't really do that much damage to him anyway. But I ended up with 2 black eyes. He ended up with a face that was scratched open, and he took my phone. I still have my laptop though. So
even for me, you're not taking my laptop though. I'll be like, you know what?
Yeah.
Whether do this the easy way or the hard way, but you're not taking my laptop though. I'm just so sorry. So I can only imagine like this happening back to back.
Yeah, I think if I'd only gotten robbed, then I would have been fine. I mean, it wasn't the nicest experience, but I would have been okay. But I think these things happening so quickly after each other, and again, a guy was touching me without me having given my consent to anything.
Again.
Somehow that triggered something, and I just I broke down entirely. And then I was just a sobbing mess the next few days. I noticed that I started to develop some sort of hatred for Nairobi, which was the last thing that I wanted.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I was scared when I would go outside, and I would find everybody suspicious. And why are these people walking past the car? Like, what are they trying to do? I didn't dare to take a boda anywhere anymore.
Yeah.
So then I just booked a ticket back to Europe, did therapy for around 2 months, I think, and came back to Nairobi. But most Kenyan women that this happens to, they don't have that opportunity to go through therapy. And for me, it helped so much.
And the right kind of therapy. It can be therapy, but you know, just you talking to somebody and they're listening to your but there's a kind of therapy that probably
yeah, and different kinds of therapies work for different people.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I feel like most women in Kenya that this happens to, they have to deal with this stuff on their own. Yeah, and I can't
be shameful to report, to share, because you know, like for you, you're just talking about it, like, you know.
Yeah, but I do have to mention that how open I am about this, that is not really normal. Not
It's
even
not?
in Europe.
Oh, it's not?
No, people don't talk about rape openly. No.
Yeah,
There's
that's
only
why,
very
even when
few
you
people who
even
do
when
this.
you mentioned it, that's why I was like, I mean, I don't know how to process, because even for me, it's taking like a minute or two for me to process every time when you're saying it. I'm just like,
Yeah, no,
I
but
don't
like
know.
I said, I've always been writing articles about stuff that happened to me personally,
Yeah.
because people could always relate to it in some way.
yeah,
And this for me wasn't any different. And first when it happened, I was kind of shamed into not talking about it as well. But then I thought to myself, fuck you guys. This is my experience. This happened to me. I can talk about it whenever and wherever I feel like it.
you know what will even be better and make you feel better?
What?
Reporting the guy.
Yeah, but you have to understand that as a man, it's very difficult to understand the repercussions that might follow from reporting the person who did this to you.
But
all the women that I've talked to and I've explained to them this and this is the reason why I'm not reporting it. They've all understood it entirely, and they were like, I probably would have done the same thing. And all the men in my life, all my male friends, especially my Kenyan friends, they were all like, you have to go to the police, do this, do that. I'm like, no, this is my decision. You have to respect the decision that I made.
My question would be, is it that in your mind you're still processing it like, yes, this happened to me, but the guy can change, or it's not even like you care about him? Like,
no, I don't care. No, I don't give two shits about him. If I would see him right now, I'd probably punch him in the face. But for me, it's, as I said, I don't have any physical evidence against him, so the chance.
Oh, so like that.
So if I would go to trial,
then
it's going to be my word against his, and the chance that he's going to get convicted is very slim.
But if he left the condom, then would you have reported?
Yeah, I would have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And now I understand. Okay.
But then another thing is that he's like known around here. People know who he is. I think if he had just been some random dude that people don't know, I would also have reported it. But I was kind of contemplating, like, if I go to the police and I report him and they arrest him on some charges and, they're going to go to court with it, then somehow this is going to end up with the press and they're going to write all kinds of stories about this and my name is going to be attached to him and this whole thing forever.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to have to go through that, because in the end the chances that he was going to get convicted were so small. Like, I didn't want to torture myself like that. I don't know. I've thought about maybe talking to him about this, maybe meeting him somewhere public and,
No.
but I know it's not going to make a difference. He doesn't give a fuck. He's done this before. I was just
Yep.
I was just one of the victims.
The calculated manner on which you've talked about, like, even him picking up the evidence and everything.
Right. Yeah.
That's something he does on a regular, so.
Yeah, so it's not going to make any difference. He's just going to laugh at me and walk away to his stupid wife. She's not stupid. She probably doesn't know, but okay.
Now you just disclosed that he has a wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
So should we move to a different topic, a more cheerful maybe topic?
Yeah,
sure. Not very cheerful, but something slightly different.
What?
We can always pick this
topic?
like on a part 2 or something, when I come to ginger. Okay, so the next segment, let's just talk about probably the book research thing that you mentioned that you're talking about before we hop on to love conversation. It's it's unfortunate that we started with.
No, I mean I don't mind talking about this at all.
And the tattoos. Let's talk tattoos. Do they have any like specific significance? And how many tattoos do you have?
I have 9.
9.
Most of them are very small. You wouldn't even know that I had them.
Let's start with.
That's just decoration. Like a lot of people here.
It has no meaning.
No, I just like the way it looks. But people here think. I always think it's so stupid that tattoos have to have a meaning.
You can't just have
No,
an
I just
eye on
liked
your
it.
finger.
I just liked it. That's why I put it on there. But people here think it's like an evil eye some of the time.
Oh yeah. And for the 4.2.
Yeah.
What's that?
So I
Closer to the mic.
had an eating disorder for a very long time.
Eating disorder.
Yeah. Are you familiar with them?
Um,
They're not as common here as they are.
no, people force
in
me. I force
Europe.
people choose for me foods to eat on my Insta stories. I don't think it's the same thing, is it?
No, and it mostly
Like eating a lot
occurs-
or less?
It could be both. Most people that have an eating disorder have some sort of unresolved trauma, or they don't really know how to deal with their feelings and their emotions, so they just
Or like
focus
take-
all of their attention and their
Ah.
energy on their food,
Yeah, I think I
which
know what
is
you're talking
a
about.
very unhealthy way to...
Yeah.
Like, it's an unhealthy relationship that you have with food, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that meant that I would go days without eating, and then on other days I would be so hungry by then that I would, binge eat. So I would eat all the fucking food that I could find and then throw up afterwards, and I would use laxatives and just all kinds of weird behavior. But people think it's a superficial disorder, that it's only about wanting to look good. But
Was it?
it's not. No, it's
So what were you going through? So
that's a story for another
it's
day.
a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
But
We're
not
gonna
a
be
breakup
here for
though, right?
5 hours. No, it was way more intense than just a breakup. It was something that happened to me in my childhood, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So eating and not eating.
Psychologically?
and
Don't
was-
tell me like another's.
Yeah,
Oh.
psychologically. Yeah. So
Okay.
I didn't know how to deal with that because I was way too young. I didn't even know how to express what had happened to me.
Yeah.
So eating was just a way for me to, somehow deal with whatever I was going through. So
And then where do the laxatives come in? Because I remember even there's a time
Mhm.
doctor prescribed some laxatives to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know what laxatives were.
Oh, you didn't?
So
They make you have diarrhea.
listen. I'm leaving the house and he specifically told me, you know what? Make sure you take these when you're around the house.
Yeah.
So I had forgotten to take, I think, one before I went to bed or something. And I took it when I was going to town.
No!
Ooh,
Don't ever do that, people.
ooh, ooh, ooh. No, but I didn't shit my pants. But let's just say I told the driver he has two options.
Uh-huh.
To either stop the car right now
Mhm.
or they have a very serious mess to deal with.
Mhm.
And when I got off the matatu, it was just like, ooh.
Looking
Yeah.
for a bathroom.
Yeah, that's how, anytime somebody mentions laxative right now, I'm like, yo, let's think of another alternative, shall we?
Uh-huh. I get that.
But so
yeah.
you used to pop those just for
So
putting yourself through.
So some days I wouldn't be eating at all, like I just said, and then on other days I would be overeating, like compensating because I was so hungry from starving myself.
Yeah.
So somehow that made me look normal. Like I was never fat, nor was I skinny. I just looked normal because on some days I was eating, on other days I wasn't. But in my mind I was very disturbed,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
people couldn't see from the outside.
Was this like in your teenage years or something?
Yeah, it's for most people it starts in their teens. I was 12, I would
Okay,
say.
I won't ask details, but what kind of recreational activities do you do is it Holland?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do there for fun, like recreation purposes? Were you
As a kid,
playing sports? Yeah, like at
yeah,
that
like
age, what do
regular
people do?
stuff. Just
Were you still doing them, or were you isolated when?
I know I was still doing all that normal stuff. I didn't even know what was happening to me when I first started to exhibit the first signs of an eating disorder. I didn't even know what an eating disorder was.
Yeah.
But my mom recognized it. She knew that there was something going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had bulimia for the most part.
What's
So you
that?
have there's a couple of main eating disorders. So
Yeah.
there's anorexia, where
you
where you
actually-
starve
yeah,
yourself
oh,
as
okay.
much as possible.
Yeah.
There's bulimia, which is what I mostly had, which is when you go through periods of not eating, and then you start overeating, and then once you've eaten way too much, you try to get rid of all the food that you've just eaten. So that's why people with bulimia, they overeat, and then afterwards they will start exercising very excessively, or they will throw up all of their food, which is what I did, or they will start using laxatives, like I just said, to get rid of all the extra food that they've just eaten. So that's why I took those laxatives, because I had an eating disorder. And then once I was sick from the time that I was 12 up until I was around 22, so 10 years. But then when I was 17, that was the first time that I kind of admitted, I think I have a problem.
This is not normal.
This is not normal what I'm doing. And then I started following this very intense therapy course at a clinic that was specialized in eating disorders. And the group that I was put in, because you're usually being treated within a group who have the same, with people who have the same sort of problems. And the group that I was in was called the 4.2 group. So that's why I got the number tattooed on my arm. So whenever afterwards, when I was not feeling that well, or I had tendencies to, fall back into that behavior, I would just look at my arm and try to remember all the stuff that I
don't need
was
to go
taught.
through this again.
Right.
Yeah. So we're definitely getting you a fruit salad. I don't think we're having any more pancakes or anything crazy. On this table.
Right now I'm good.
But you have everything in control right now, right?
I'm good right now. It's just something that you have to be mindful of for the rest of your life. It never really goes away 100%. You can learn how to be in control of it, but I wouldn't say you would ever be cured 100%. It's always kind of a soft spot, So that's
crazy,
what the
man.
4.2 stands for. But I don't like the way they tattooed this.
It's a nice one. It's definitely.
No, it's not.
It is.
They didn't do a very good job with this.
How would you want it to?
It should have been it's kind of fading, and it's not even that old.
You can get a cover up.
And
Come on.
Yeah, I will get a cover.
What
up
about
one day.
the one on your wrist? What's this?
This was from the time that I
269.
Can I
guess? Can I guess?
Yeah.
Your ex's house number?
God no. I would have cut off my arm by
I'll
now.
never forget your house. Okay.
So I told you that I used to be an animal rights activist, and I was part of a group of animal rights activists that was called 269.
Oh wow!
And
you actually got a tattoo?
Yeah.
Do you regret having that one, or
no? I still stand behind the meaning 100%.
Oh, okay.
But it's just annoying because a lot of people ask me, "What does it mean?" And then you have to get into the story again and again and again.
You have to. You have to. I have to ask. So those are 3. You have more?
1, 2, 3. This one over here, that's just decoration.
Okay, so that no meaning at all?
No, this is my younger sister's name. That's a very Dutch name. That's probably going to be hard for you to pronounce.
I can't. I thought it was like a pulse.
It kind of looks like a pulse.
Is that M-Y?
Yeah. R.
M-Y-R.
T-H-E. Meerte.
Is that me?
Meerte.
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 Meerte?
Yeah.
Meerte.
Meerte. That's her name.
Meerte. Okay. I'm just trying. I'm trying out here. Yeah. So what else? Do you have a close relationship? Clearly, if you have,
Yeah, we do. Even
small sister or big sister?
She's younger than I am. Yeah, 2.5 years.
So what made you get a tattoo of her name? You just love her that much?
Yeah, and she just moved away to the US, and I was missing
Oh, she's
her.
the one that you actually go and visit.
Yeah, so
yeah, at least.
I only have one sister and my brother, who's not really my brother, but I still call him my brother. And apart from that, I don't have any siblings. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What other tattoo?
This one, it says "Survival of the Fittest" in my own handwriting. This was from the same time period as when I got the 4.21.
What does this represent?
It's just a reminder stay strong in order to make it
Okay.
through life.
Yeah.
So how many is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
7.
Then I have an airplane. No, I have an airplane on my back over here.
Okay, we don't need you to take your clothes off right now. It's not that kind of podcast. It's not that kind of podcast.
It might decrease your ratings.
Or increase or decrease. You're like, and then you know how you can do like a thumbnail that, it looks like you're almost like. So one at your back.
Yeah, the airplane, which is, it's pretty.
Is it a big tattoo or small?
No, it's pretty small. I got it in Kampala.
Ah, okay.
So I didn't know the guy who was doing it, and I didn't know if he was gonna do a good job.
And you still let him mess.
Yeah, I think I was a little tipsy that day.
Jeez. And that's why I wanted to ask you another. But those are all right?
No, and then I have another one in my neck that's a little.
Visible though or not?
Yeah, it's a little clothing hanger, because I wanted to get into fashion for the longest time.
Okay.
And then I have one big one that's on my leg. That's Africa.
Let me see.
Hold on.
I'm not taking off your clothes.
No, I'll just pull up my dress.
Okay. Ah, yeah. Yeah, that's actually really nice. Okay.
So that's it.
Yeah. So what we'll do, probably we'll do like just, she'll do an Insta story
Yeah.
of just like,
Just the visible ones, though. I'm not gonna be taking off my clothes.
don't push it. Just let's just be civil. We want the podcast blacklisted anytime soon, not yet. Or if we do, we know what we can give it more ratings, If you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So when you're choosing a place to go get a tattoo, like that, for the leg, that's a lot of details, colors and everything. That I can definitely tell. It took some time, and of course you had to trust someone to give them like a big space to actually do the tattoo. Was that done in Kenya?
No.
Africa?
No.
Netherlands?
Back home, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Of course, definitely. I can see where the trust issues are. You have to be, if I don't trust you, small tattoo. But do you pick, or you just don't care? It can be like,
I never really.
like you say, do you get tattoos when you're high or?
No, I'm not really that much of a drinker, but I just get drunk very quickly. That's my problem. But usually I don't spend months preparing and thinking about tattoos before I get them. I just get them. I don't really care that much. We're all gonna die anyways.
Hey, listen, we don't wanna think about that. Like I had like this podcast segment where we were talking about this. I was just so depressed. I was like, I don't wanna think about we're about to leave this place anytime soon. And if we do, that's why I need so much more content to put out there. I need to leave a mark.
I'm not gonna say. I'm not saying that I will die next year. I'm just saying we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Might as well get into my casket with a few tattoos on my body. Who's gonna care?
Wow. Any plans on getting any more tattoos?
Yeah, I want to get a giraffe somewhere.
Twiga.
Yeah, because everybody always calls me Twiga here.
Yeah. And you've been to the giraffe center, right?
I have been there, yeah.
Did you kiss the giraffe?
I did. I was there with my best friend, and she was so grossed out because she
Oh, the tongue
thinks
just
everything
is
is gross, and she's like, "Ugh, Charlotte, I'm never gonna touch you again." She had all these disinfectants with her, and she was like rubbing my entire face with it afterwards.
Come on. Yeah, that's quite an experience. Okay, let's move to the book thing before we go to the love segment, which is going to be like the last piece. What's your... You mentioned to me that you're doing a little bit of research before you write your book about can I mention it?
Yeah, you can say.
And say what it is about, it's about.
Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned that it's about how the NGOs
about Western volunteers coming to sub-Saharan Africa, and then
the damage
volunteering in orphanages, and the damage that they're doing over here.
What's that about? Like, what have you noticed apart from like what we mentioned earlier, the whole poverty porn thing? Yeah, what else is like stood out from you, like from just like your research, and what triggered or made you actually want to write a book about that?
So I have done this kind of work myself
Yep.
for several years when I was a little younger.
Yep.
And that was mainly in Uganda. And then especially one of the orphanages that I worked at, there was so much going on there that I just didn't agree with. And at first I thought maybe this is just a problem that they have at this particular orphanage. But then I started digging and asking other people about it and reading up on it. And it's just, it happens everywhere. It's not just Uganda. It's the same kinds of troubles popping up in this industry because it's an industry. People are making money off of this, and a lot of money as well.
The NGOs?
Yeah, and it's mostly... I'm mostly criticizing Westerners coming here and opening up orphanages left and right. Because usually from the orphanages that I have visited over the years, the ones that are run by local people are not as problematic as the ones run by Europeans or Americans.
Where does the problem come
generally. So
Because
there's...
I'm thinking they're coming here, they're helping out these unfortunate people with unfortunate situations. Donations are coming in.
Right.
So yeah, where exactly is the...
So they've done research on this. There's this one organization back home in Holland. It's called Better Care Network. And they've done extensive research, and they've concluded that I think it was 80% of all the kids that are living in these orphanages in Africa are not orphans. So they have parents or other like immediate family members that are willing to take care of them.
Yeah.
But instead they're institutionalized and put in these homes up until they're 18. And then the kids that I worked with in Uganda, it was close to Kampala. I would say that 90% of them still had parents or other close family members. But the more kids would live in that home, the more money would come in. Because every kid would have at least 3 sponsors, and all of these sponsors would transfer around $35 every month. So 3 sponsors for
like
every
a
kid.
Patreon thing, right?
And this is just, you know, like families back home in Holland, Belgium, the UK trying to do good, I guess.
Yeah.
And then there's also like really big companies also sponsoring these sorts of homes.
Yeah.
Which are, it's just huge amounts of money.
Writing big checks every month,
very
probably.
big.
Yeah.
And a lot of these places are just corrupt as hell, from what I've
So definitely
witnessed.
money coming in, and you know, the people who are giving these approvals for certain paperworks, people get to split the money.
Yeah. And for me, the kids that I worked with mostly were former street kids. But then a lot of Europeans think that just because a kid lives on the street, he or she doesn't have any family, and that's just not the case.
It's not.
Many street kids have parents.
Yeah.
They're just trying to get by and trying to get a little money.
And even homes to go to at times.
Yeah, sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Which is new information for most Europeans coming here to do this sort of work, because they think that these kids are all orphans, and they're not.
Because there can't be that many orphans if you think about it, though.
No, and research has also shown that areas where a lot of tourists come in Africa, there's more orphanages in those places, even though there's not a higher number of orphans in those areas. So there's a freaking shortage of kids. So they have to come up with ways to fill up these homes.
Listen, you don't think you'll be upsetting a lot of people who are setting up those institutions, though, when you write that kind of book?
I probably will.
Yeah, because, you know, if that comes out, definitely, I can tell you, definitely, I'm buying the book. I'm calling you back for another episode of the podcast. We have to. An exclusive one. But I'm just saying, like, you know, a lot of people, even when they're donating their money and everything, they just know immediately it's going to good use. And
That's what they think. Yeah, that's what they all think.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And even for most of these kids, you might find like, their situations kind of like almost never changes from how you find them.
I mean,
because the money is not basically going to like, probably 50 or 60% of the money is being...
I don't know the percentages, but the Westerners that I worked with, they would go on vacations all the time, and they would have staff around their house. And meanwhile, the kids would have to eat ugali 3 times a day with no meat or something on the side, just a little bit of vegetable.
Yeah.
Those kinds of situations, and they happen everywhere. And of course, some people are going to be pissed, but...
But yeah, what made you think like just differently? Because I'm guessing when these people who are doing these things, they do know it's not the right thing to do.
Are you talking about the organizations doing this or volunteers coming over to...
Do the volunteers know? Because when you're coming in, you didn't know. Yeah, right?
No. I mean, I thought that I was going to help in some small way.
Yeah.
I knew that it was not going to be very significant, whatever I was doing, because I'm just one person being in Uganda for about a month and a half. I mean, what difference am I going to make?
Yeah.
But I thought it would be maybe small, but I could still contribute in some way. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true for most volunteers. But there's also a lot of volunteers coming here that just want to do this kind of work to put it on their resume. Like, I volunteered in Africa.
And Instagram though. Yeah.
Taking pictures for their Tinder profiles.
Oh, yeah.
Posing with all the Kenyan kids.
Man.
Yeah.
I didn't know that shit was so messed up, and it's so crazy that I knew it like when it's a bit too late. I'm just like, how could I have been so ignorant and don't understand like what this means? It's not right. It's just not right.
I think a lot of volunteers coming here do not understand the privilege that they have.
Yeah.
And often, I think about 90% of the time, they're not even qualified to do the work that they're doing. Because for me, I was working with kids that had been living on the streets prior to them living over there.
Yeah.
And they were all very traumatized, things that happened to them that I had no idea of, and I didn't know how to handle that at all.
Can't fix it even by just telling them like it's going to be okay.
And there has to be, trained staff around them in order for them to deal with certain things, and there just wasn't. And I remember
they don't undergo therapy, which they actually need.
And they need it, 100%. Yeah. I remember a friend of mine going to, I think she went to Durban in South Africa. Mm-hmm. She was 19 at that time, and she was also doing voluntary work. Mm-hmm. And then she was 19. She just ended secondary school, and then she went to South Africa, and she was supposed to, do counseling sessions with people whose kids just had been murdered, or women who just had been raped violently.
Do you know even how fucked up that is? Like, she has to actually start processing and hearing people talk about that such things. And she has no experience in how she's supposed to
No, and she came from one of the safest countries in the world. I mean, what kind of knowledge do we have that's going to contribute to anything? I didn't know anything. She didn't know anything. And she was
put there to be like a therapist, kind of
like lead counseling sessions, help wherever she could. And she was brave enough to say, what I'm doing here is not helping at all. It's actually causing harm. I'm out of here. Bye. And then she just left. But most volunteers don't have the guts to do that, or they're too blind to even acknowledge the fact that what they're doing is causing more harm than good. Mm-hmm. And for me, the thing that triggered me most was I was working at this NGO in Uganda, a place close to Kampala. Mm-hmm. And there was a lady coming over, a Ugandan lady. I think she was in the beginning of her 20s somewhere, and she had a newborn baby with her. And she was knocking on our gate, and she was like, she explained her story, and she told us that she just had her baby, and she didn't have the financial means to take care of her baby, and she was asking us to take her child in for a couple months until she would have her affairs in order, and then she would come back and pick up her baby. So, and this NGO was run by 2 people from Belgium, a couple, and they were like, yeah, sure, we'll take her in. It was a baby girl. And then by the time the lady came back, I'd already left Uganda, but I heard afterwards what happened. She came knocking on the gate and she said, "Hi guys, I have all of my affairs in order. I'm coming back to pick up my baby." And then these two Belgians told her, "No, it's our kid right now."
What?
And the lady, she couldn't do anything because she didn't have a birth certificate. She had her baby at home. She didn't go to the hospital. She didn't have any proof that that was her child. The only thing she had was her word against theirs. So what was she going to do? And nothing that they had agreed upon was written down. It was all like
verbal. Because it's like, I'm desperate and
right,
can you help me out?
Yeah. So that's been 4 years and the kid still lives at the orphanage.
So she's never gotten back her baby?
No.
Okay. Then I definitely wouldn't want any affiliations if that's where I was.
Yeah, so that is the one
and that's just
NGO
one
that
incident, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff happening at that same orphanage, and there's all kinds of stuff happening at other places as well. But I've been trying for the last couple of years, together with a couple friends of mine, to close this one down, which is very hard because the two people running this place, they have a lot of money coming in every day, all these donations.
Oh yes,
and
I can only imagine.
They're able to bribe the entire police force.
Especially like in East Africa with a little bit of...
Yeah, so I went to the police a couple times to try and report things, but the police would just like laugh at me and I could go home again.
Super stressed out, depressed, that there's nothing you can do, even if you're trying to do the right thing. And
in that orphanage especially, there were two groups of kids. So there were on one hand there were former street kids, which I was just telling you about, and then on the other hand there were a lot of babies that were just found on the side of the road, which I always find a little suspicious. Like, there's not that many people who leave their baby on the side of the road, but there were kids coming in all the time, like really newborns.
Yeah.
And
by suspicious, you mean?
Like,
think there's...
there has been research that shows that a lot of babies get stolen from hospitals to fill up orphanages, and it's just an entire industry. But these two groups of kids, they come from very different circumstances, of course, because these babies have never lived on the streets of Kampala, but still inside the home they were living all together. And then most of the kids that had lived on the streets previously, they had been they had been dealing with sexual assault a lot of the time, and they always had very intense background stories. But whenever they would come into the home, they would never get any counseling, which was very necessary.
And that's the one thing that you're actually supposed to.
Yeah, because they could be like 10, 11, 12, but they were already sexually active most of the time. And then at one point, the social workers that were working at that NGO, they were Ugandan ladies. They approached a few volunteers that there was a problem and they didn't really know what to do with it. So they found out that at night, when all of the staff, or most of the staff, went home, these boys living in the home that had come from the streets would sneak into the baby's dorm and rape the little newborns. And this had been going on for some time, and they had tried to talk to these two Belgians about it, and they just pretended like it wasn't a problem.
See, first of all, you're providing an environment for that to happen.
Of course, yeah, it could have all been prevented.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, like even such... man.
And this would happen every night. And I have gone up to these two people. I've told them, these kids need counseling. That's the only thing they need. We cannot help them. I don't have the means and the knowledge to, in order to talk to them and explain to them why this is wrong and why they can't do this anymore.
And even the little kids that are being taken through this, I don't even want to imagine, like...
Yeah, they're going to be traumatized for life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how little you are. I think sexual assault also always has sort of an impact, everlasting impact on your life.
Worse when you're super young and you have no control at all of what's happening around you.
No, and you can't voice whatever is happening to you because you're too little to even explain it to somebody. And the social workers noticed that there was something going on because they would change the diapers of the baby girls, and they would get all squeamish and panicked, and start crying every time this happened. And then at some point, somebody walked in the moment these little boys were doing this. And, you know, it could all have been prevented. But it costs money. Counseling and therapy costs money, and they didn't want to spend the money.
And you see, that's the most important thing, because these people, you're supposed to take them through therapy first of all.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you see, this is already a child who's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's punishing them, like, are you supposed to throw them in jail? You're supposed to do a mob justice to them. I mean, are you supposed to?
They're also a victim of the circumstances.
Yeah, and something similar must have probably happened. They were in an environment where people were doing this.
To them.
And to them, even when they're doing it, they're probably thinking like this is just like a normal mischievous thing to do.
Yeah.
It's like this is what kids do in any other places. It's not.
Yeah. And then one other thing that also happened, and not just everything that I'm telling is not just happening at this orphanage. It's not just happening at that one specifically. This is like a way larger problem.
Yeah.
But there were always volunteers coming in, mostly girls from Belgium and the Netherlands.
Yeah.
Who would be my age. I think I was like 21, 22 at the time.
Yeah.
And they would often engage in, like sexual relations with the oldest boys living in the home. And they were like 16, 17. And I've tried talking to them about this, how it is like you're abusing your position of power. And it's essentially rape because they're underage.
It is. And from somebody who's like in a... I don't even know how we're supposed to put this. Though. Someone who's... I don't know.
It just disgusted me to no end. And all these things...
No, it's crazy. But it most like... All the things that you're mentioning, like even a lot of people who are in those kind of positions and institutions, they know. Because for you to bring it up, it's not like you're pulling it up from nowhere.
No, I think they're aware of most of the issues going on.
And you should write that book soon.
I will.
So
busy doing that.
How soon are you thinking of like just releasing the book?
Well,
we're actually about to move back a bit. Okay.
Right now?
No, we're good for. No, yeah. So for how soon? You see the thermometer blinking there. It just means like the sun is almost on the camera.
Okay. Well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing a master's degree in September.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to combine university with writing my book and then also freelancing on the side. So I'm kind of hoping I'll be done by the beginning of next year, probably. And then you'll usually have to wait another 3-4 months before it's actually published. Yeah.
If you need, somebody to talk about it on this side of the world, you got me.
Yeah. It's going to be published in my language first, Dutch, and then it might eventually get translated. Who knows? That's always a possibility.
I think that's so important. Has anybody else ever spoken about this issue?
Yes, lots of people.
Also, but like when it's happening, like just people are taking it for granted or what?
No, I think the reason people picked up on it
because I didn't know about those girls coming here and having like sexual relations with the young boys. I didn't know, and like of course like when it's happening to boys, like in Africa, like that's like considered like come on, a boy can't be raped.
Right.
That's how.
Yeah, and that's not just in Africa. That's a belief that is
worldwide,
sort of shared everywhere.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous, of course.
Yeah.
But no, this has been a topic of conversation, but I brought it up on Twitter, and I kind of was describing all these incidents that I was witnessing, or that I had been witnessing in the past few years, and people just responded to it differently, I think because...
How?
Well, usually when people are talking about why orphanages are damaging and why institutionalizing kids is damaging, they usually talk about the fact that kids are exposed to all kinds of different people in a very short amount of time, and they don't know who to attach themselves to, and they have trust issues, and they don't know how to, deal with that at a later age. But then the things that I shared were so gross, just so disgusting that people
need to hear them.
Responded in a different way. And it's also, I think this is also a problem that has been raised by Africans over the past few years. I know organizations. I know one in Uganda. I think there is one over here that tries to make people aware of this. But as soon as a white person starts speaking up about this, as dumb as it is, more people are willing to listen for some reason.
No, it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah.
Great attention to it. And even like for me, you see, I thought you were going to talk about like, just the fans and everything. But now once you bring all these other aspects of things, you're actually not helping the kid. You're fucking them up in the head.
Fucking them up entirely.
In so many different ways.
Yeah. For the
Plus,
rest of
even
their
the way
lives.
you're talking about like, the one thing they should provide therapy is not there.
Mm-hmm.
And you're creating this environment like where sexual abuse is going on from some of the kids to themselves, and even from some foreigners coming in to the kids. So I mean, it's just like a whole different like messed up like.
And even just without all of the abuse, leaving that out of the equation.
Yeah.
The whole concept of an orphanage is just damaging in itself. I mean, there's a reason why we don't have orphanages in Europe anymore. It's because they're damaging the kids long term. Because it's not normal to share your parents with 50 plus other kids. I remember when I was working at this NGO in Uganda, there were kids that no one was paying attention to.
Yeah.
And they were like 3 years old and they didn't even know how to talk because nobody ever talked to them. There were just too many of them. And they've done research on this, and it's far more beneficial for kids to grow up with their extended family if there is no immediate family willing to take care of them. Or they can be put into, foster families.
Foster families.
Preferably local foster families.
Yeah.
And I think adoption should be a last resort as well. But that's a whole different story.
It's a whole different podcast. But I'm just saying, listen, that's just... I've even forgotten the most important thing I wanted to ask. What did I want to ask? And it was just in context to...
That there's no orphanages in Europe anymore?
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, so why... And we are back.
Yes.
So yeah, we had to take a small break to... Don't even know how I'm supposed to explain it. But yeah, we're back. So we're talking about the... Why would then these countries want to support, even by sending funds to systems that they themselves actually are not in support for, or trying to do the same thing like in their country? Like you said, it's an absolute thing there.
Yeah, I mean, in Eastern Europe you still have orphanages, but in the West you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of people coming here to do that sort of work just assume that this is the best solution that there is right now.
Yeah.
But I think just sending all these people over here is gonna create just more demand, like more. Like I said, there's not enough orphans to accommodate all these volunteers coming here.
Oh, babies will keep disappearing in hospitals, and now it makes sense that you've. Yeah, now that you've mentioned it, it makes a lot of sense. Because when you see those incidents, you'd be like, who's stealing babies? Like, especially like in Kenya, because I don't think we have that whole, what do you call it? Because I hear there are some countries where like, people actually are being now forced to have like kids. The government is putting incentives aside, like, if you get a baby, we're actually providing A, B, C, and D. I don't know whether it's the same like in Holland.
You get certain benefits if you...
Is it the same thing in your country?
Yeah.
It is?
If you're if you're not able to make ends meet, then there's all kinds of government benefits.
Oh, but not like if you have extra kids, like, you pay less tax, or you get an extra
you get
check.
Child benefits, but I don't think they're high enough for people to want to make more babies.
What kind of child benefits are we talking about?
Like just money in order to support your child.
You do?
Yeah. If you're not able to take care of that yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yo, Kenyan boys would be reckless there. They'd be reckless there. They'd be like, what? And get extra check? Okay, let's do this. But yeah, I'm just saying, like, especially...
And I'm not saying that everybody who runs an orphanage runs an orphanage has evil intentions. No. But like looking at the base of the problem, I don't think orphanages are the way to go.
And there you've said it's according to research. Then again, it's been researched. So, and that's why like same the way you're saying, like in some certain countries they've decided that, you know what, this is not beneficial to kids in any way.
I have to say that a lot of African governments are also becoming a lot stricter when it comes to being able to open an orphanage and all the papers that you need to get in order. Like, I think in Rwanda there's only one left in the whole entire country.
Kagame is not playing though.
No, that guy is not playing.
He's not playing, and you can't buy him. It's like he really wants to leave a legacy there.
Yeah, and you
Even
can question the way he does that, of course.
Yeah, of course he's a dictator, but do you see some of the benefits of why he kind of like has to be the way he is?
The way he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
It does make a very big difference in the country. And he was also talking, I think even he's actually like making moves that other countries, okay, we don't want dictators in our country because we're already like spoiled with freedom of speech and everything that we do. But he was also talking about like how pastors, like now in Rwanda, you have to go through like a whole school and graduate and show that you actually have papers of actually you're certified to be able to conduct and teach people about religion and just even preaching in general. Because now we have all these pastors like, you know, who are taking it out of control. I don't know whether you've seen the memes. Have you seen the one who's doing like, you know, wrestling moves on people? You haven't seen that?
Was that here or in Nigeria?
No, that's in Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria is crazy. It's
Don't
crazy.
even get me started on pastors in Nigeria.
It's crazy. but yeah, you see, there's some leaders who definitely don't want that bullshit because they know the long-term repercussions that it's going to have to the people. And when it comes to such things like religion, children, man, like sexual orientation, there's so many things that are very sensitive, and just when you bring it like in Africa, it can go to different extremes and people don't know how to handle either.
And I think also there was a TV program on Dutch television last week about a Dutch guy named Hans. I don't know his last name. They keep it a secret because he's being investigated for all kinds of criminal activities. He had been convicted of sexual abuse of kids in the Netherlands, but then still he was able to move to Kenya and open up an orphanage.
He's in Kenya?
Yes, he's still here. He walks around Nairobi.
No, you're lying.
He walks around Nairobi.
You're lying.
No, he's... And I think...
Do people know him or they don't know about him?
I don't really know if
because if
people
that's
are
what
aware.
He was doing in Netherlands, I can't imagine what he's doing in Nairobi. Because
the orphanage he ran is not in Nairobi. It's somewhere outside of the city, but he has an apartment here, and he's.
But like even outside the city, that's why it's notorious now.
Yeah, so he was already taken
to court. Are you sure about this information?
Yes, 100%. So he was taken to court in Kenya a couple years ago for the same allegations.
I see, that's just ridiculous.
Sexual abuse of kids. And then somehow, miraculously, the courts never made it, the case never made it to court. So he just probably bribed
paid.
And just was able to walk free and do whatever he was doing before. So now he's been under investigation again. But I think he's out on bail right now, just waiting for his case to start again. And he has been, of course, doing the same thing all over again.
The craziest thing about that is because we were talking about that also like in the podcast, and the thing is, like in Coast Province, have you been to Mombasa?
Yeah.
Malindi area and those sides. I mean, there's some tourists who come
There's
there
many
to
of them.
to have sex with kids.
Yeah.
And
I thought you were talking about sex tourism in general, but you were talking specifically about.
I'm talking about like kids specifically
coming to rape kids.
Yeah, but definitely no sex tourism like in Mombasa. That's like
rampant.
They just need a permit at this point because it's insane. It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I was talking to my friend, like how you'd go to like, cause people go there for, I don't know like how it is like in Holland, but like for us like during festive season, like over the holidays, a lot of people go there to just like party and have like fun and
Right.
these December like it's like a summer retreat kind of like for us.
Yeah.
And I was explaining to my friend like how it's gotten so bad that there's a time we used to go to like if we just go to like a club, we can actually just meet regular girls and like we're having like a house party tomorrow. Do you guys want to come over?
Yeah.
And we'd set that up. But nowadays, it's like if you go, you're rocking the club with this chick and everything, you're vibing, like everything is good. And then like at around 1 midnight, she's like, what? So what's the plan? And I'm like, I'd be like, what's the plan? Like, you want us to go home or what are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's like, how much do you have? Like, stop wasting my time. Stop wasting my time.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh my, it's gotten to that point now, like everybody's just like, how much? But yeah, of course, definitely.
But also the amount of old white ladies coming there.
Oh yeah.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah.
And they're usually from what I've noticed from Germany or Switzerland or Austria.
Somebody did a short film about that, and it won like crazy.
I think I've seen that movie, but I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah, with the beach boy.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, you know what, this is like a really nice. But what I liked is that I think they actually used real beach boys.
Yeah, they did.
Who were doing that like on a regular.
Yeah.
But I was just happy to see this guy on a red carpet, and probably this is something that he'd never like even like wished in a million of years. Even it never even crossed his mind.
No.
But even after that experience, I'm sure he doesn't have to do that anymore.
I hope he doesn't.
Come on, it would be ridiculous after you run like through a red carpet and you've done press and everything.
You don't know how much money he was paid for that. I don't know.
Come on.
But like many of the,
I'm just guessing after that you should make something out of yourself.
I hope he did.
If you're coming back and then you're still doing that whole thing in.
I usually just feel sorry for those guys because they're generally doing it to just support their families. It's not that they really have a choice as to what job they're doing.
For guys, like for girls, I can say like okay, but guys, come on, man.
Really, the unemployment rate is so freaking high. What is happening?
What's going on? What's going? Hold on. So yeah, basically what I was saying is, I don't think beach boys. I think they can do something different.
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. I've talked to a lot of them because I wanted to do my master's thesis on this for a while, so I was interested in talking to them about this.
Yeah.
And many of them would just tell me that they wanted to support their families, but they had tried to get a job and they couldn't. So this was just a last resort to make some money very quickly.
Quick money. Quick money. That's the thing. Yeah.
Because you can do it without an education, of course. You can just go to the beach and see whoever is interested in you. And it's not work that you want to be doing.
I think some of them actually enjoy it.
I don't think many of them enjoy it very much. I think they're just good at acting.
But yeah, you know that's the thing. You see, that's why I was saying like if you go to Mombasa, it's like a whole different like ball game because you have like men who are doing it, and like you've said, it's those old women from Austria, Germany, and where else? Switzerland. Yeah, and it's just like specific places. It's like they go back home and they just tell their friends, yo,
I know a place we should all go together.
I'm telling you, girls retreat. I know the path. And even like when they're coming over with some friends, they know they can call a particular guy who can call his friends as well.
Yeah.
And you see, like for that, there's nothing really much that we can do because it's adults dealing with adults.
Right.
And you know, it's not like even for guys, kind of like, you can't say it's like, it's almost the same as prostitution, but
it is prostitution.
For them, it is.
Sex work.
But they just do it like in a different, I don't know, man.
But then yet just have to keep in mind that they don't want to be doing this work at all times. They're sometimes forced by their circumstances.
Yeah, man. I'm just thinking, I don't know, man.
Would you want to have sex with an 85-year-old white lady from Germany? I don't think you would. Let's be real here.
No. Why is that even coming up? Why did you look at me when you're asking me
Because
that?
I'm
Is it because I have
asking you.
cornrows and I have... is it because of my hairdo?
No,
And you
I'm
know
just
what?
saying, put yourself in their shoes.
I went with my friend in Malindi before I knew about this. And I've always had like cornrows and dreads. I'm always switching it up with my
So-
hair.
Women thought you were a beach boy.
No, here's the thing. I saw like, because my friend is a DJ there.
Right.
So he didn't mention this to me. I didn't know about it at all.
Had you never been there before?
Yeah, this was my first time, Malindi. He does like a lot of beach parties and everything
Yeah.
in resorts and everything. So waking up in the morning after like, just traveling and everything. So I was like, you know what? Because I like shooting and everything. Let me go to the beach, record like a nice time lapse, and I can post something on Instagram. So on my way to the beach, like I'm seeing like all these really old women, like they've been like sleeping in the sun, like since the sun came out, they were just sleeping there, just getting like So they have like what do you call it? That tan thing going on. Like,
They're
but
burning
it's
up.
they're burning up completely.
Yeah.
But so most of like now they're walking back to the hotels, back to their rooms and everything. When I was going there, so I have like my vest on and my shorts and my GoPro, and I'm just walking. Like the first one said hi to me. I was like, oh yeah, hello. The next one said hi to me. Like, wow, all these old women are so friendly. All these women are so friendly.
They must be having a good
I'm like,
day.
you know what, like, this is quite a nice place. So by the time I get to the beach, I've said hi to almost like 6 of them. And they're like super old and in bikinis, and I'm just like, oh man.
Weren't you
But-
getting suspicious?
No, because they're just being nice. They're just being nice.
Yeah.
So my friend, I came back after I done my time lapse and everything. Go back
Yeah.
and tell my friend like, yo man, people are so friendly here.
I love Mombasa.
Yeah,
I love
Malindi, man. I thought like most of these old white people would be like almost racist or something. It's like, no, bro. They thought you were a beach boy. I was like, oh shit. I was like, oh no. Oh no. Yeah, he was like the whole time, if they were looking at you, smiling at you, they were just thinking of how they can signal you and maybe they can
gross.
come back and have sex with you. I didn't know. But and then I put 2 and 2 together, and then I was like, man, I can't be such a dumbass just walking around not knowing what's going on. But yeah, of course, definitely. That's not the situation that I'd be looking for. Definitely not, man. I mean,
Nah.
it's never that serious. But yeah, I mean, so that's just something that, at least if it's brought to people's attention, I think like your book would definitely shed more light to it. And the
I
one
hope so.
thing,
I
no,
just-
it will.
The main reasoning that I have behind this is that I just hope that in some way I can make people who are contemplating doing this kind of work just maybe try and convince them to not go do something else.
And that's
Like, if you want to go find yourself, you don't have to go to freaking Kenya to do
Yeah,
it. You can
yeah.
do that back home as well, and maybe do voluntary work with elderly people who
there's
are
so many other
lonely
people who
and-
need
Right.
help there as well. And
Yeah,
I mean, like even with all those things that you've mentioned, man, it's just like a whole messed up like situation.
yeah.
I mean, who would want to get? And I also understand, like, I know some other people who've come once for those like volunteer kind of programs, and they just don't want to come back.
Why?
And I think that's why.
Because they're
Maybe they experience something, or they realize, like, you know what, this is not what I actually thought I'm coming to do.
You know,
And
there's
you see
a
a
funny
whole-
story. The first time I did volunteer work, I was in Malawi,
Yeah.
and then close by to the NGO that I was working for, there was another NGO, and they would welcome, I think, volunteers from Germany every few weeks. A new group would arrive, and they would be asked to build a school. And then after the first group had left, they would break down the school. And then the second group of people were asked to build up the same school with the
Come
same stones. And they
on.
would just keep doing this over and over again just to keep people busy
What the fuck is that?
and keep
though?
raking in their money. And I'm like,
But do you but do you understand how messed up that is?
I
though?
know. And it's so pointless.
Jeez.
It's mainly meant to give volunteers a good feeling about themselves.
No, that's
Let
just
them
crazy.
go home with, pride about their work.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Or giving back to Africa, and
Yeah.
there's so many other things you can come. You can come and maybe start up like a project or a business or something, but it doesn't have to be like that kind of it just doesn't have to be like that hand and mouth kind of thing.
And I don't think that you have to start up your own thing. You can just support an NGO, a local NGO that is being run by capable people and whose ideas you're behind.
But how will you know after like these stories we've talked about? How like you think somebody will listen to the podcast and be like, oh shit, that's what people are doing there?
Yeah.
But there's so many things and topics that I think people know, but they're not bold enough to have conversations about them.
Probably.
Yeah. And what kind of impact though are you looking for with the book?
Just hoping that people are going to spread the word.
Do you want the impact overseas or do you want the impact here? Both.
Beginning with my own country, because I mean, I think some numbers recently came out, and the number of people wanting to do voluntary work in Africa has been decreasing because of all these stories coming out. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you want to travel, if you want to go see Kenya or Tanzania or Rwanda, whatever, go do it. But you don't. For me, the thing was, I wanted to see parts of Africa, and I thought to myself, if I'm going to go anyway, I might as well try and contribute something. But like, that's not a necessity.
Yeah.
Because in the end, often you're doing more harm than good, and I think it's good to take that into consideration when you're planning a trip like this. It's also just fine to go on safari and
actually play with the lions. That's a white thing. They like playing with, wild animals. We don't do it. The giraffe is as good as it gets, as friendly as I get. Anything else, I'm closed up in the van. I'm not doing those, those pickup trucks that, are always like they have no roof. And then you're just looking at lions.
And all the white people sticking out their heads.
I'm not doing that shit. No. That's not for me. That's not for me.
Accidents happen, A while ago there was a guy I think it was in the Kruger Park in South Africa.
I saw the old white guy?
Yeah, who stuck out his head out of the window.
Why?
He just had a death wish, I guess. So he got eaten by a lion.
Yeah, but I've seen that happen like so much. Even like in our safaris, I see like people like, just stretching out their hand like a bit too much. Or
getting out the freaking car.
Yeah, like just
walking around.
Get a zoom lens.
Right.
Zoom in as much as you want. Like even with the iPhone, you can actually pinch in the screen and zoom, still take the picture. Oh man, it's never that serious. Okay, now, since we've touched like on a book and everything, we'll definitely... I'll do like a Skype thing or whatever where you'll be when you start maybe writing in a couple of months and everything.
Okay.
And just like interview you so that you can bring more context to the podcast and everything. You can always Skype and talk about that, record and post it as well.
Yeah.
But now let's go to the last segment, which of course is very important to all of us. We're talking love right now.
Oh God.
What do you feel about love?
Do
you want to be you team single, team union? What's your preferred choice of lifestyle? Do you prefer being with someone or?
I think overall I prefer being with somebody.
And I also had like Europe girls from Netherlands are here. They're just crazy. They swing both ways and everything, which is not a bad thing. Like each his own, but
yeah, I mean,
what kind of lifestyle are you into?
A lot of, I have to say that a lot of white girls that come here fetishize black guys up to a point where it's just becoming creepy.
Hey, jungle fever. It's called jungle fever. Do you have that? Do you think you have that? Hold on.
You were asking me a question.
Yeah, hold on. I see you rushing somewhere. Hold on. I'm just saying, you know why? I want to know why you think like other girls... Okay, let's start with this. Why do you think other girls from Europe are over, like you said, over fatty?
Yeah, sexualizing African guys up until a point where it just...
Who never knew? You never knew. I never knew.
You didn't know, but of course... Like this
is that a bad thing though?
I mean, it is.
What?
I think it is.
Oh, women call us trash every day. I mean, like, it would be good to know, like, somebody somewhere is thinking, like, oh, if I have this Kenyan boy.
I'll send you a couple links so you can look up information on this.
Oh, okay, yeah.
During colonial times,
Yeah.
and also during the times of slavery in the U.S., the reigning white powers would kind of spread this myth that African men have this appetite for sex that is just
It's not true?
that is just humongous compared to white people, and they're always
course.
after sex all the time, and they all have huge dicks is what everybody thinks.
They don't?
And no. And then people have been spreading these stories for decades.
Please keep spreading those stories. We like this. No.
And I think it's doing harm.
No.
Because it's...
What harm is it doing?
I don't
Please.
think it's good to fetishize people in
What?
any situation.
Please fetishize us as much as you want. I'm speaking on behalf of me and my friends. Please do.
So there's like I've noticed this in Europe and in the US as well, that many white girls want to try and have sex with a black guy just once in their lives.
Oh, just once?
And then to try it and then just move on to another white
No,
guy.
if it's just to try, no. Mm-mm.
This is a thing though.
But if you do appreciate and just like you're intrigued with someone, I think maybe that's...
Yeah, I mean, if you're genuinely interested in somebody, I mean,
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do, but don't harm people in any way. Yeah.
So that's all you have to say about, like, you know...
About jungle fever.
About jungle fever. Sexual appetite.
I mean, I was with the same guy for 9 years. So the last year of my life, I'm 27 now.
Just for the record, let's say you dated, like, you know, a black guy since you were a teen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since from the time that I was 17 till I was 26.
Yeah.
So this is the first year of my adult life in which I've been single.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
So...
Okay, now that's when it's playing now in my head. Okay, now I understand.
Yeah. So I've been dating around. Now I've met somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm behaving at this point, just sticking to one guy.
I'm behaving at this point.
He's not my boyfriend, but that might happen in the future. I don't know what's going to happen. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Patient. We're taking things slow. So.
But what do you think? Why do you think, like, you know, a lot of just like, and since you've brought it up, like, I think like now it's like a trend, like a lot of, like, I think it's Dutch girls. They are very fascinated with just like, you know.
Really, Dutch girls specifically?
No, okay. Let me say European.
I think it's European in general.
European in general.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's this Afrobeats thing that, you know, set it off for us and it's doing well. I mean, but I mean, you can bust a move, like do like, you know, any of the Nigerian dances. You're good.
Yeah.
Apparently.
I don't know what it is.
What do you like about black guys?
I mean, I can't make statements like this because that would mean that black guys have some factors in common that they all have, which is not true.
It's not?
And
you know what they say about black guys?
Yeah, that's also a myth.
What? Well, first of all, I also need to know if we're on the same page. What are you talking about?
That they all have a big dick, which is not true.
No, I wanted to say like black men don't cheat. That's what I wanted to say.
No, they don't. They never do.
So I didn't even know about this thing that you're bringing up. I didn't know this penis size thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, but they don't cheat. No.
They don't cheat, right?
No, never. That's the reason why I like it so much.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so it's a myth. It's not true that all guys are blessed indeed. I mean, I wouldn't know because, like, I'm a guy. I mean,
no, definitely.
I don't pay attention to that.
I'm not going to share any details
I'm
on
not
this.
going to compare my size with my friends everywhere. We don't do that. So, I mean, I would want to know from, like, you,
no, it's
from
not true.
a female. It's not true.
No, definitely
I'm sorry,
not.
these guys have disappointed you. Shame on you. Know yourselves. Shame on you. We have a reputation to keep.
Yeah.
But do you think you're more like... Is it something that was acceptable, like you just growing up, since you're saying, you know, from 17 you're dating like somebody from a different ethnicity? Just like from your environment, like let's say in Holland in general, is it common? Is it something that it's just like...
It's not uncommon, but
Uh-huh.
from the area where I was from, there
Yeah.
weren't a lot of black people around at all. I think when I started dating my ex, he was one of 3 black people on the entire island. So everybody knew him, and I had known him since I was a kid.
Also, yeah.
I didn't know him well, but I knew who he was just because he stood out from the crowd.
Yeah, definitely. It's 3 people. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I think my parents have always been very accepting of everybody.
That's nice.
So they didn't give a fuck about who I was dating as long as I was happy.
Yeah.
So I wasn't out to like date a black guy. I just fell in love with him.
Yeah.
We connected, and then we had a relationship for 9 years. But I'm not saying that I would never fall for a white guy. It's just never happened before in my
I don't
life.
think so. They say once you go black, I mean...
They say that, but I've seen the opposite happen in my
Really?
surroundings. Yeah.
What was wrong with this person or with this
I don't know.
individual?
You ask them.
Oh, people, we have a reputation to keep. Come on. Okay, and just because I'm always, like I bring in like so many, like if you watch like from my podcast, it has like people from so many different ethnicities and backgrounds, and it's always like a very fun segment when we start talking, and because if you have like old school parents who like really never mixed with a lot of people,
Right.
like because of like just circumstances, then people are just a bit segregated, like apart from now, even like just from social media, it's a whole different ball game. You have different friends from different places, you can reach out and you just start liking somebody and going out with them, and it's like so many different cultures are like just cross-interacting, making beautiful babies and everything.
Yeah, I have to say though, because my parents were so accepting
Yeah.
and have been all my life,
Yeah.
I was very naive when it came to racism in Europe
Mhm.
or the Netherlands specifically.
Yeah. In what
Because
way? Like you didn't know it existed, or?
I mean, I knew it existed, but I didn't know the extent of it
Yeah.
until I was with him.
Oh,
And
now you
I
started
saw
noticing.
things happening. Yeah.
Like what? Things like what?
Like I remember one time we were taking the train together, and some white dude was screaming at me out of nowhere that I was betraying my race by dating a non-white guy, and he even said the N-word.
Ooh.
And I remember because he was a DJ, and then I remember one day he was working and he was talking to a white girl in the club, and this was back home in like a very non-diverse area
Yeah.
of the country where there's
Mhm.
mostly white people living.
Yeah.
And he was talking to this girl, and he didn't have any intentions with her. He was just making small talk, and then her brother came up to him afterwards and was like, "My sister's not allowed to talk to N-word. You leave her alone, blah, blah, blah." So he was like, "Whatever, go fuck yourself." And he just left.
Yeah.
And then next thing he knew, they put his head on the freaking bar, and they were just beating him up until he was unconscious. And that is the most extreme
Okay, now
example.
that's
But there's a lot of
extreme.
microaggressions whenever we would go. I noticed that if I would go out shopping by myself, that I would never be followed by any staff in a store. But then whenever I was with him, we would always be followed around.
And that's crazy.
all these
Those little
small
things that yeah.
Yeah. So that is something that I became aware of, and I really didn't know beforehand.
Then pay attention to
Yeah,
it.
how severe it was.
Yeah, my. So since you let's say you broke up with your 7-year
9-year. Yeah.
9-year boyfriend, have you had an experience dating like maybe somebody from like your race? Because now I'm guessing like you're more mature in a different way, because you met him like when you were young, super young.
Yeah.
And that's who you've known like for 9 years you're talking about. So have you been able to step out and
No, I mean I've been messing
dig back?
around
messing around.
Yeah, like
Okay.
casual situationships that never really led anywhere.
What's casual to you? Like just going on dates or sleeping around? What do you mean?
Like going on dates that don't really go anywhere.
You have nothing in
Or-
common with somebody.
I don't think you need to have things in common with a person.
What do you look
necessarily.
for, like when you're dating? Like, is it conversation, vibe? Is it sexual? Like,
Like
what are the
all
things that?
combined?
Mhm.
But for me, usually it helps when my partner is a little more outgoing than I am, because I have a tendency to shut myself off of everybody when I'm not feeling that well. So
Yeah. Somebody who can at least take you somewhere or just out of that shell
Yeah.
and make you feel.
just someone who's a little more lighthearted than I am at times.
Wait, what do you mean? That
I mean,
the-
it
are
can
you
get
still
severe
talking
in my
about
head.
somebody who can like cry on your shoulder again? Are we talking about that?
I mean, I think the thing that mostly goes wrong in relationships is just lack of communication,
Yeah.
which happened to me as well. So I think communication is very important. That someone is capable of, expressing how they feel and what's going on inside their head. I think that's one of the most important things.
Is that what happened in your previous relationship?
Yeah, he had a lot of personal issues he was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't really willing to deal with them in a healthy way. I'm not going to spill too much information because that's his story to tell. And
Yeah, you don't have to have him on the podcast maybe next time.
I don't think so.
He'll say everything. He'll say everything. Spill all the tea that I need.
So I was gradually it was changing into a relationship where I was taking care of him full time to an unhealthy level.
Emotionally? Or?
Yeah, emotionally.
Yeah.
And at some point I just couldn't deal with it anymore.
You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Women don't want like weak men.
I mean, I don't
You
think
don't.
someone,
You really don't. You
I don't
might
know-
say that, but if once you start getting somebody who's like,
I don't think
really,
that I get along with weak people in general.
yeah.
But I wouldn't say he was weak. He just wasn't ready to admit to certain problems that he had, and he didn't know how to deal with them, and he was just kind of pretending that they weren't there, and things were just
building up.
gradually getting worse and worse and worse. And he didn't realize the full extent of all of his issues until I left. So I think that was the biggest wake-up call for him. But yeah, I have no resentment towards him. I hope he's happy.
You're still friends?
I mean, no, he's always gonna be in my heart. I grew up together with him. I was a child when we got together. He was too. But I don't feel like having a friendship with him.
How comes you never got a tattoo of his name?
I think getting tattoos of your partner's name is just very stupid in general. I think that's kind of jinxing the relationship at
It's
some
like,
level.
yo, you're gonna break up every time you do that. It's
Right.
like,
It's all gonna go wrong after that.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. That's a rule that I set for myself. Never get a partner's
Yeah,
name
because you seem to
tattooed.
you can wake up one day and go get a tattoo about this and that. So I was thinking,
Yeah.
if you stayed with him for 9 years,
Nah.
at least he deserves, at least a neck tattoo. At least a neck tattoo.
A neck tattoo is so visible as
Somewhere
well.
here next to, yeah.
I don't think so.
What kind of qualities, though, do you look for when you're looking for love in someone? What do you look for? I know one for sure.
Which is what?
They have to be black.
That's not like. That is mostly the case, or that. Okay,
Oh,
that is
okay.
always the case.
Yeah,
but it's not. It's not
mhm.
like. I'm not. I don't go out looking specifically for black guys.
So you say, okay.
And also, ever since I broke up with my ex, I've mostly been here. So,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and there's not that many
Oh yeah.
white people here.
Oh, they're there. They're there.
I mean, there's a couple.
Yeah.
Nah, not interested. Yeah. So,
But do you think
and also,
it's easier for you right now because you're kind of like used to him? Do you think like you're maybe chasing something that's close to him? Because at times people
No.
say that thing of like, you know, at times there are people who have like a pattern of like their exes. You'd meet someone's ex and then you're like, oh, now I understand. This is a kind of person like they.
Well, I remember when I was younger, my mom is a very strong person and just a strong personality. You know, when she walks into a room, everybody notices that she's there.
Yeah.
And I think to some extent my sister and I have the same thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she has always told me, like, Charlotte, the way that you deal with problems, and you're very mature for your age, because I did all the therapy that helped.
Yeah.
And she said, you're quite a strong person, and that probably means, because she went through the same thing, that you're going to attract men that are weaker than you to kind of support on you. And she was right about that. I always thought, like,
that was your mom, right?
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah,
told
and
me
that's
that.
what I was
But I
saying,
think-
like, you know. And I say this, didn't I say this earlier? Like, because I'm like, no. But do you think, but have you tried people who are like, you know, not super emotional or just
So
people
right
are
now,
just like slightly stronger?
right now I'm seeing somebody that I, like, for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm not the caretaker in the relationship. I just, like, I feel equal.
Yeah, like they
So
have.
that's new to
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
And for some reason, that is also a pattern that I've noticed, that I usually I usually have to dumb myself down for guys in order to keep the conversation going, in order for them to, you know, like, understand everything that's going on. And
What do you mean?
I
What
mean,
kind of
that's just what I
people? What
did.
kind of people do you meet? What kind of people are these that you?
Like, on an academic level as well. And this is the first time that I'm dating.
Yeah.
We're not together yet. I don't know what is happening. We'll see in a few months' time. First time that I'm seeing somebody that I don't feel that way around. I don't feel like I constantly have to explain
It's like
myself.
you're teaching them everything, and
Because he just gets it already.
yeah.
And then we just teach each other things all the time. It's like, it goes both ways. You know what
As
I
it
mean?
should be. I mean, don't
Yeah.
entertain weak men. Let them be. Just let them be. Let them be. Because, you know, like now when you're going through stuff, you also want to feel like you can actually now go to somebody and actually feel like they can kind of like comfort you in some way. Like
Right.
even if it's emotionally. Doesn't matter how tall you are, you know. Doesn't matter how tall you
He's
are.
taller than I am.
Oh,
Thank God.
okay. Yeah, but I'm just saying at least you can kind of like, you know, get, you can feel like it's somebody that you can go and actually just...
Right. And like I said, he just has a way of communicating that is healthy. So he just expresses whatever is going on in his mind, and I do the same thing. And, like, I never lie around him. I never have to conceal whatever I'm feeling. So
Yeah.
I think that's a big plus. Definitely.
Okay. What are deal breakers for you in a relationship?
I think one of the most important ones is a lack of ambition. Like, that is a huge turnoff for me.
Okay.
People that have no ambition in life, not just in potential partners, but just in people in general.
Those are weak men. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Weak.
I don't know if that's weak. Maybe
Weak.
it's just laziness.
No, weak.
I don't know.
Laziness is just an excuse because you can wake up in the morning and you can wake up in the morning and do something, and at times, you know, if somebody's like that, they actually start like that energy start dribbling down on you as well. Yeah, so you
Yeah.
have to stay away from such people.
So that is one big thing, and then
Okay.
I usually go for guys who are a little taller than I am, because I always feel
That's
like
insane, man.
such a
Come
freaking
on.
giant everywhere.
That's not even like fair to people who like maybe are looking at you and they like you because they're like, what? 6.
No, but I have to say that usually shorter guys are intimidated by my height. So
There is no
they're
way.
they're not interested in me.
You're lying.
anyways. No,
Like,
it's
listen,
true.
think about it this way. Like, even for me, how I can look at it is a lot of people, like, even when it comes to like mainstream industry and stuff, people always like dating like even supermodels and stuff. Like Eddie Murphy has dated like a lot of super. Okay, but then again, that's Eddie Murphy has like way too much money. So that does not apply. I'm just trying to think of the average people. Oh, okay. Now that's just like, now my way of thinking was just like with millionaires. That's like a whole different example. But I'm just thinking,
yeah,
like,
that's another level.
yeah, that's just a whole different thing.
But
Is it because you're uncomfortable dating shorter guys? It doesn't make you happy?
No, I've actually dated a shorter guy for a while.
How short is short?
He was this much shorter than I was.
That's penis size you're showing, because that can be like someone's height.
He was like 5 centimeters shorter
whose size is this? Who's this?
He would come up to here. But I would feel very self-conscious about it for some reason. Like I noticed that if I would walk outside with him, I would kind of, like.
Ah, come on.
Like.
I think it's the hottest thing to actually date like not too tall from my height. I think like it's hot though to have like, just like a slightly tall girlfriend.
No, you know what I like?
Yeah.
I don't mind being tall. I like it in general, but I like it even more when I'm with a guy who's also tall as fuck, and you walk into a restaurant or something, and people are just like,
"What is this? What is this?
Who are these two giants?"
Yeah. Okay, yeah, true. You also just have like a lot in common, though. I think it's harder if you're dating like it just is weird, probably, right?
What?
Dating like a shorter guy for you.
Yeah.
From personal experience?
I mean, I have done it before. I'm not saying I never would do it
It's
again.
not your cup of tea. Let's say that.
It's not something that I usually go for. And one other thing that really turns me off in people is when they're being
Come closer to the mic.
To serving staff.
No, you can't do that. And I'm always telling people that you can't do that.
A while ago, I went on a date with he was Nigerian, by the way. We went on a date, and he was so freaking rude to the serving staff, the girl who was serving our table. And I told him, like, don't be a fucking dick. She's being nice. She's just doing her freaking job. What the fuck are you doing?
Oh.
And he's like, I'm not being a dick. And he just continued his behavior. Why
are you saying it like that? Like, I'm not being a dick.
And at one point, I had enough of it. So I left.
Yeah.
I was like, bye, this is not going to work out. Bye. And I just left.
And that's it?
Yeah, I never saw him again.
What?
That's not going to work out ever in life.
But, okay, here's the thing. Again, was he being rude, or was he just being like Nigerian? Because they can come off a bit. Yeah, I mean, come on. Like, let's just be honest. Like, a majority of Nigerians are like just, aggressive even when they talk. And it might come off
like... Yeah, their
like...
way of talking can be a little aggressive.
It can be, because it's like, it's confrontational. You might think like, maybe he just wanted some extra salt in his food, but the way he's asking for this extra salt is like, I need that extra salt or else.
No, because I'd been around him for some time, so I knew how he would interact with people, and he was just being plain rude to her.
Yeah.
So I didn't like that.
I'm always saying,
and I said, bye.
You left him.
Talk to you never.
If you have a problem with your food, know that if you're sending it back in the kitchen and you're rude, this is the same person who's handling your food.
Right.
And
you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. You might spit in it.
Yeah. And I'm just saying, like, anything goes once it's in there, like, you wouldn't know. And you don't want to have, like, that at the back of your head.
No.
I mean, yeah, you'd rather, like, if you don't like the food, don't be rude.
It's just a general rule in life. Don't be a dick to people unless they're being a dick to you.
Giving off that kind of energy is never like the right way to go.
Right.
So yeah, also, you wouldn't want somebody who's rude. What else? Does he necessarily have to be rich? Is that like a thing?
No.
How comes that's like a thing with, like, this is also like a European kind of, like, a lot of girls from Europe, I'm guessing, not unless it's a bit of... Yeah, I hear like a lot of people just like, content with love and building together.
Right.
I
noticed that a lot of my Kenyan friends, a lot of male Kenyan friends that I have, they're like first I need to get all of my shit in order, and then I'll be ready for a relationship. And I'm like,
Because that's what girls are demanding for.
Yeah,
Like, you know, you
I've
want to
noticed
have a
that.
nice car.
yeah, and you need to
money,
be able to take me out.
holidays,
time,
and
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. No, I don't
No?
really. No, that's not
You want a rich boyfriend to fly you out in Dubai every other weekend, you know,
Nah.
vacations.
I'd prefer
Popping
just
champagne
being
bottles.
able to pay for my own shit.
Really? And I heard like even you guys like on dates, like you believe in splitting bills and everything.
Yeah. I
What?
love splitting bills.
What? Very foreign concept indeed. Very foreign concept indeed. No, but I'm just saying it's a whole different. The cultural differences are insane, and you know, I'm just always intrigued to know how different people are. You know, because I'd bring somebody in the podcast and they say, look, you know, if he doesn't have his shit together, if he's not paying my rent, if he's not paying for my car, if he's not fueling my car, if he's not doing A, B,
I
C,
think
and
that's
D.
ridiculous. He needs to pay for my fuel. Get the fuck out of
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah. After getting the car, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, the fuel comes
insane
after the
to
car,
me.
though, right?
No, that just doesn't make any sense to me.
But how's the climate like in Holland? Because most people here say it's just because as a result of social media.
Uh-huh.
That's why, like, you know, a lot of like just girls in general are trying to adapt into like all the things they're seeing in social media. The mainstream actors, artists who are like, you know, are in these like reality shows, and that's almost something that they're trying to emulate. Because somebody said the other day, or was it last week, that all the hoes are winning right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it is indeed like a fact.
Like in what way? Give me an
They're
example.
like, you know, I mean, like Kim Kardashian, man.
You can't call women hoes.
I'm not the one who's saying like
No,
that was
but
a
you're
phrase.
Sort of agreeing with it because you,
No.
you just said.
No,
"Yeah,
listen,
they're right."
like you see, like when I say that, it's like people like, because like from our country, I'd say a lot of people are heavily influenced with Western culture when it comes to fashion, music,
Uh-huh.
even what we watch, like just movies, just American movies.
Yeah.
We listen to hip hop a lot, maybe dancehall and reggae, but that's minimal.
Yeah.
But a lot of influence comes from the American culture. So let's say somebody like Cardi B, of course, she was a stripper and climbing up all these hurdles and everything. People are not looking up to Michelle Obama. All
They
these
are,
year.
I
A
think
few
I think
mature
it
women
fully
are
depends on
mature.
who you're asking.
No, mature women
Uh-huh.
could be, but the young girls who and now are like the wave on the internet and influencing each other heavily. It's through people like, you know,
I mean, Cardi B is problematic in some ways, and so is Kim
some
Kardashian.
ways. Oof.
Yeah, but they have built their own brand out of
Yeah.
nowhere, which is something that I can fully
Key-
appreciate. And
Keyword
Kim
from
Kardashian,
nowhere.
right? And Kim Kardashian, I mean, her dad was rich already,
True.
but she, like, her ex-boyfriend released a sex tape of them together without her permission, and then she just created
Come
an
on, it was
entire.
with her permission. Come on.
I mean, later on, she was cashing in on it because she was like, "It's already out anyway, so
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
gonna earn money from this."
Yeah.
Which is
The right thing to do.
logical, I would think.
Yeah, because it's already out there. You'd
Right.
rather like at least get compensated.
And then she created an entire empire out of one dumb sex tape with her whole entire family. I mean,
Yeah. So
go Kim Kardashian.
So any young girl looking at that blueprint, you know, coming from a sex tape, evolving, Cardi B.
I don't think
Cardi
any
B.
young girl looks at Kim Kardashian and thinks, maybe I should also make a sex tape and
What? You
release
don't think
it."
so?
No. I think,
And when Cardi B is saying things like, you know, fuck him, then get some money,
nah,
you don't think like young girls are taking that like, you know,
I
end
don't
up
think so. Because girls are still shamed so much for owning their sexuality. So I don't think
Come on.
anybody is gonna release a sex tape on their own terms. At least not a lot of people. This is not a.
Yeah, it
I think
probably
that's
won't.
widely
It
spread.
won't make you a lot of money right now because Pornhub is already there for. We have a lot of free content, by the way. Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Hold on, let me make sure we're still rolling. So should we agree to disagree on that?
Yeah, we will. But you were
Yeah.
just talking about Western culture, and I think even within.
Heavily influences.
Yeah.
Like just,
But
I
even
just
within a-
wish our girls would get influence from Europe instead of States. Because Europe, it's a whole different, like,
Do you think Europe is less toxic than the US is?
definitely. US is, everything is just like messed up with, in terms of influence. They're the worst. They're doing so much damage to everybody else.
I mean, the far right is also on the rise in the whole of Europe, which I find scary as hell.
The what?
The far right, like
What's
far right politicians.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But even, within the West, there's so many differences. Like the US is, in some ways, not comparable to Europe at all. Because my sister, like I said, she moved to the US, and you would think that like Netherlands, Texas, there are some similarities, of course, but still, she ran into cultural differences that I think are kind of inevitable.
Yeah.
And right now, the guy that I'm seeing is also American. He's half Nigerian. He's never been to Africa, though, so I would say Nigerian influences.
He's never been in Africa?
No.
Another one. I see. You see what I was talking about?
What?
Kind of looking for the same thing, almost like, almost the same thing.
Yeah, it didn't start out like that, though. I was just talking to him because I thought he was interesting. Same thing for him.
It's all good. You don't have to make up any excuses.
It's not an excuse.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you how it went down. Because I met him on Twitter. Isn't that the weirdest thing?
How? People still link up on Twitter, like, because did he have his actual picture there?
Yeah, I did too.
And you actually sent a nice tweet, and then you're like, oh, this guy must be funny, and
No,
I'd like to meet one of my Twitter followers.
No, a guy that I was following retweeted something that the American guy had tweeted.
Yeah.
And I saw that, passing by in my timeline, and I don't even remember what it said, but I thought it was the funniest thing, so I just went over to his profile, followed him, blah, blah, blah. Just because he was funny, and I could see his location, which was like somewhere in the US, so I thought, this, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we just started talking, and we hit it up from there.
So this is a long-distance kind of relationship?
It's not a relationship yet. I would call it a
So what is it if it's not a relationship and it's long distance? Okay, then how do you deal with that? Let's say you like someone, you're seeing them, and they're like just miles away. You get to only see them like after a couple of months.
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, black men don't cheat, so of course that's a plus.
That's a good thing.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But yeah, how do you just like, how do you manage to just be in this situation with just being away from each other?
Well, I saw him in March. That was the first and the last time that I saw him. So I went over there.
Which March?
Last March.
Last year?
No, this year. So 2 months ago.
What are you talking about?
I went there 2 months ago. It's May.
So you met him in March?
Yeah. So I went over there, and
girls from Europe are very interesting.
Why?
I'm just
Am
saying.
I a representative of all European girls?
I mean, you're on the podcast, so you're representing them. Yeah.
So I went there, and I had always said that I wasn't gonna do long distance.
Yeah.
And I still kind of stand by that.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm seeing him again in June. So then we'll try and figure stuff out, I guess.
Hey, all the best, man.
Thanks.
That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy. It's not easy.
Nah,
Long
it's not
distance
easy.
is like just...
But some people are worth the trouble,
No, yeah, and definitely, of course. If somebody you see like they're worth it, hey, why not take those chances? Because it's already hard as it is right now to like just meet genuine people. It's very tricky in this day and age. It's not as easy as it used to be like a long time ago.
Yeah, true.
So where do you see yourself like then in terms of like just, do you want to start like a family maybe in future? Because a lot of girls maybe set targets for themselves, like by the time I get to this age I'd want to have like a kid. By the time I get to this age I'd want to have to be like in a family setting and just take it from there.
Yeah, I think right now I'm still way too selfish to be having kids. Because like I'm always gallivanting around.
Yeah, yeah.
Wherever I want to go, I go.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that you can't really do anymore once you start having
You can't.
babies.
Yeah.
So I'm 27 right now. I don't really have a time span set up for myself, but I just want to maybe in a couple years settle down somewhere, and because I like always being on the move, but
Yeah.
at some point it also gets a little tiring.
You can't do that once you start a family, though,
No,
right?
you can't. So I do want to have kids. I always said I didn't want them for the longest time, up until like a year ago, I think. Because I think having kids or wanting to have kids is inherently a very selfish choice.
Yeah.
There's already way too many people on this earth anyway. And the earth is probably gonna go to shit in a couple hundred years.
I just posted something yesterday. The population of, where was it? Look at that population. Nigeria population as of late.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
even though there's far less people in Europe than there's in Africa, Europeans are currently causing way more damage to the planet.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
more men for you. Have a look at this.
That's a very big number. 201 million people
Yeah.
in one country.
Yes.
How many times does Kenya fit into Nigeria? Do you know?
Probably, I don't know, maybe 3, 4.
How many people is in Kenya in total? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't want to misquote, but probably 35, 45.
Okay.
Between 35 and 45 mil, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But it has to be between 35, 45. 201 is insane. It's a lot.
It is. Yeah.
It's a lot especially for like a country that, I'm also keeping in mind that they don't have like systems in place that, favor them. There is crazy corruption there as well. So, I mean, I'm just
Have
saying.
you ever been there or no?
No. I wanted to go for Lagos Fashion Week.
Oh, you did?
But yeah, I was invited to go and do like a digital content kind of thing, but I wasn't doing the podcast then.
Ah, okay.
But I think it would be appropriate right now because I have a podcast, it's mobile and everything. Maybe that would be like in the works for it because they have amazing, like their fashion.
It's on point.
Oof.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it is.
Especially for the Lagos Fashion Week, it's insane. It's something that I didn't expect because I saw it like afterwards on Instagram and I was like, I should have gone.
I think Lagos must be one of the most overwhelming places in the world.
It has to be. It has to be.
I have Nigerian friends and they would always tell me, Charlotte,
Yeah.
before you go to Nigeria, see some other African countries first because you're not prepared yet.
I hear it's a lot. It's a lot to digest.
I feel like right now I'm probably prepared.
And everything is like just like that, snappy. You
Yeah.
know how they operate, snappy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think somebody was being rude to your waiter, you wait till you get there.
I like Nigerians though. I think it's funny how
Yeah.
extra they can be sometimes. And I like how direct they are.
Yeah, a bit too direct, but and that's why I was asking you, like, were you sure he was being rude or he was just being like,
he was being rude. Yeah.
Okay, then
Very clearly.
that's definitely like on the extreme side. So I think we've just touched on quite like a lot, and
This thing is going to be 5 hours long.
no, probably I think 2.5 because we've taken like so many breaks because of my freaking batteries and like just the breaks that we've taken, like just to confirm whether everything is running smoothly. Probably 2.5, but we've talked like about a lot, and we can always like do a part 2, part 3.
Yeah.
So you're moving to Uganda for now, right?
Yeah, well, I was planning on being in Uganda for a pretty long time, but now I've just decided.
How much is long?
I wanted to, live there and see wherever life would take me again, but now.
Really?
Yeah.
How do people do that? How do you just
Because
wake up
I'm
one day and
freelancing, so I can basically work from anywhere, as long as I have my computer.
as long as you just submit your articles and stuff,
then
you're good.
Then I'm fine. Yeah.
Oh wow, okay, then that's actually.
But now, with this whole situation going on with the guy that I met in the US, Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. So for now, I've decided.
Are you planning to take a break on your career for this guy?
Nah, not a break on my career. I'll always be working, but I'm gonna be in Uganda
That's
for
beautiful.
A couple weeks doing research for the book.
For the book, of
Yeah,
course.
then I'll go back home for 2 weeks, and then I'll just go to the US afterwards for some time, see my sister, see him
Where does he stay in the US?
in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thought it was Atlanta. Atlanta's there.
No,
There's a lot
he's
going on
from
there.
Atlanta,
Oh.
Georgia.
Yeah, but those are the most faithful ones. You know that. Black men don't cheat. Black men don't cheat. Yeah. So I guess we've talked about like a lot. Is there something that you want to plug before we say it's a wrap for the podcast?
Shout out to my friend Lina. She was begging me for this on Instagram like an hour
For
ago.
what?
Shout out to my friend.
Oh,
My Dutch friend Lina.
Lina?
Yeah.
Okay, Lina, shout outs to you, man. And you have an amazing friend. She definitely did not forget about you. We've made sure we've saved this segment just for you. Yeah, so where can people find you on Instagram, maybe, if you want people to follow you?
My Instagram is charlotte.simons, Simons. I'm on Twitter, but I mostly tweet in Dutch, so that's probably not the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
So just my Instagram should be fine.
But that's where all the love happens, guys. You know, Twitter. Yeah, don't take it for granted, man. Don't take it for granted. Yeah. So make sure I'll just put the links down below. You can follow her, and you just be in tune with what's happening, and definitely be on the lookout for her book. And thank you so much for just coming within short notice. I mean, I know you have some famous shit to do out there.
Famous shit to do?
Yeah.
Nah, I think you're overstating things.
No, I'm just saying, I'm sure you had things that, maybe you had planned, or just the timing was like very short notice and you definitely were down to do it. So
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for sharing. Like, you've shared like a lot of stuff that are intimate, some that people can shy away from talking about. And when was the last time you had like such a conversation that evolved around a lot of different things? And
this many things?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Probably with the guy that I was just talking about,
Yeah. So you hear that? So what you can take away from here? Like, there's something special about Kenyan guys as well. You can hold on a decent conversation. No. We're not talking about, forget about the others. I'm talking about myself. Okay, let me rephrase that.
There's
I'm
something
talking about
special
myself.
About you. That's what
There's
you want to
something
say.
special about me. We've held a long conversation about so much. And, even after this, we're still having probably lunch and we'll still talk some more.
Yes.
Yeah. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I can't thank you enough. Thanks. And, I hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, thanks.
We'll do that Skype thing.
Yes.
Probably in a month or two.
Cool.
And see how everything is going.
Yeah.
I'll ask about relationship status. I'll ask about so many book status. And just where you are in life, because, it seems like you're taking a leap of faith in a lot of things. And like I'm always saying, like on the podcast, I mean, the older, like the more you grow into adulthood, you'd think like, things are supposed to be like figured out, but you're always figuring out something new and chasing something new. Yeah. Just crazy. And one more question before we wrap it up. I normally ask this everyone. What do you think is the one thing that you're in pursuit of right now? And if you got it, it would give you like a more sense of belonging, direction, happiness, fulfillment. What's that one thing do you think you're in pursuit of?
Feeling a little less restless, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Very simple. I had somebody in the last 2 episodes, they said they wanted a Bugatti and a jet. And I was like, hey, listen, I think, we can save that conversation for another podcast.
I wouldn't say no to a jet. So if anybody wants to donate, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah. So, guys, it's the Kiskapades podcast. We're on iTunes, Spotify. What's the other one for Android? Castbox for Android users. YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Facebook, Instagram. We do snippets every single day. And at the end of the week, you get the full episode. So thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. It's the Kiskapades podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay.
Kwaherini.
Yeah. Kwaheri. I'll just say that again.
Kwaherini. Because I'm saying it to
Kwaherini.
more than one people. More than one person, right? So you say Kwaherini.
Who taught you that?
I was taught Tanzanian Swahili, not Kenyan
Oh
Swahili.
yeah, then that's not Kenyan Swahili. Yeah, just say tuonane baadaye. Sema tuonane baadaye. I'll see you later.
Yes.
Try saying that.
Tuonana badai.
Nice one. Okay. Not bad at all. See you guys. Thanks for listening and thanks for watching. Kiskapades podcast.